Chapter 2148. Once this place broke, an unimaginable disaster would occur. There was already a terrifying aura spreading. Three-world mountain flowed with unparalleled killing intent, sweeping through the three-realm battlefield. Boom! The world beyond the heavens was blurry. It was about to be destroyed. That kind of scene went against the past and present. Even though they were separated by three-world mountain, even though they were separated by a distant world, the emperors couldn't help but tremble. They felt extremely small, unable to withstand a single blow. What happened to the heavens and earth? What happened? The strongest of the celestial world roared. Was the three realms about to change? Was the balance of the three realms about to be broken? The heavens and earth had changed too much. Experts who had broken the environment and order stood out one after another. Everyone was like grass, their lives as worthless as paper. The strongest emperors couldn't bear it. They were invincible experts of the three realms, looking down on everyone. Once the three realms completely changed, those experts would step out one after another. They were nothing. Invincible giants who aren't restricted by the environment. The sword ancestor walked towards the strongest emperor. He said in a low voice, transcending the environment, "This is a transcendent being. Is that the future enemy, one of the people behind the destruction of the mortal world?" Thinking of this, the sword ancestor's eyes emitted a bone-chilling killing intent. The orthodoxy he created was destroyed. His disciples and clansmen were all dead. All hatred and hatred led to the deepest part of the wretched earth. "What is that?" everyone exclaimed. A huge palm suddenly occupied the outer realm. It suppressed the sun, moon, and stars. It was boundless. It seemed to have crossed billions of light years. In an instant, it formed a fist and turned into a celestial large fist. It wanted to open a path back to the three realms. Is it an existence comparable to the Tao Mausoleum? The Black King's expression was serious. He waved his fist and the light of order shone down, drowning the great world created by the Tao's celestial arch. This world, in a short period of time, was blurry and dark. The fist shone. With a rumble, the great Tao of the heavens disintegrated. It operated with great power, and supreme laws shot out one after another. It could crush enemies in the heavens. Three-world mountain trembled. An unparalleled aura spread towards the three-realm battlefield. It was like billions of hammers smashing into the hearts of everyone, suffocating them and making them feel despair. The hand of death approached. Su Yan's blood and energy boiled. His eyes shot out cold lightning. Had the existence in the depths of the wretched earth returned? "He's here." The Tao Saint Celestial quickly returned. The world was already shaking and the floating jade Rui was about to explode. Terrifying existences broke through the pass, about to slaughter their way back. However, this world was extraordinary in the end. During the process of intense trembling and shaking, it finally angered the supreme powerhouse. The entire world burned fiercely, and strands of order laws rushed out one after another, emitting a terrifying and boundless power. This was a horrifying scene. Another Tao celestial emperor's figure appeared, turning into a great Tao carrier, stopping the power of the challenger. Boom! A furious voice resounded. The mysterious and terrifying giant roared, seemingly coming from the unreachable end of the long river of history, its might suppressing the universe. The great stars of history that filled the sky trembled, and then they exploded in unison, turning into resplendent fireworks. He was too powerful. The terrifying rain of light that filled the sky blasted in front of him, as if it was destroying the world. The great emperors trembled, and then they cried out in despair. They felt pale and powerless. What kind of giant was this? The aura was too frightening. The great Tao of the heavens was about to be obliterated, and the spirits of the universe were about to be killed in an instant. They believed that once this path couldn't be stopped, this giant would directly slaughter his way out, his aura shaking up the great environment of the three realms. One could vaguely see a figure that was enormous to the extreme appear in the great river of outer space, crossing an unreachable distance in a short amount of time. His body was about to destroy 10,000 Tao. The massive figure supported the heavenly dome, imposing beyond compare. It was too large, impossible to see the end. His aura and the pressure he released were also too powerful, tearing through heaven and earth, about to turn into the backbone of the three realms. The great stars that filled the sky were like dust, swirling about in his blurry hair. An angry roar sounded, the heavens exploding, great stars falling like rain. In this world where the sun and moon were destroyed, the unmatched existence brandished his fist, slaughtering his way over again. In that instant, the Tao Celestial Emperor roared angrily, blood and energy surging, fighting strength erupting. The blue sea dried up, the great river of time collapsing. The golden great world seemed to be withering, about to be reconstructed. Dong. The Emperor's fist was matchless, suppressing until the heavens became dim. Only his aura was terrifying beyond compare, illuminating the three realms, devouring the great river of eras. This fist wasn't aimed at the figure that broke through the pass at all. In reality, it struck forward, blasting open the great river of time, slaughtering its way towards the true body of the giant that broke through the pass and wanted to return to the three realms. What's wrong? I can't see anything. Outside the terrifying world, Baokai and the others roared. Nothing could be seen. The great river of time was blurry, all matter was warping and trembling. The world beyond the heavens seemed to be collapsing. A true unmatched existence roams the great river of time, unaffected by anything. However, once a battle breaks out, everything becomes chaotic. The Black King roared, the great river of time collapsed, leading the battle to the distant vile earth, so nothing can be seen. It is too far away from the vile earth. If this battle happened in the three realms, it would lead to a great disaster. The big brother's heart was heavy. This was definitely the enemy of the Tao Celestial Emperor in the depths of the vile earth. Perhaps whether it was the Tao Celestial Emperor or the enemy in the depths of the vile earth, they both had the qualifications to return, but neither could let the other leave. The big brother wasn't even worried about this one. Perhaps the Tao Celestial Emperor had encountered more than one or two enemies. But why was he in such a hurry to return? This was a question worth pondering. Was it the three heavenly coffins? Or was it some other special reason? Unifying the three realms is imperative, the Black King said coldly. The order of the three-world mountain collapsed, the capital beyond the heavens was in chaos, and a great disaster had occurred. Both the celestial world and the dark world wanted to unify the three realms. The problem was clear. The dark world was ruled by the Dark Emperor, and he wanted to unify the three realms. The celestial world and the human world couldn't stop him. This meant that the human emperor and the others were either dead or unable to return. The existence behind the celestial world definitely wanted to unify the three realms too. Perhaps the unification of the three realms would allow them to figure out everything. Perhaps they could also locate the spatial node of the ultimate emperor of the vile earth. We are willing to follow the celestial court. We will advance and retreat together, and we will live and die together. The celestial world experts roared. Their voices shook the clouds and spread across the battlefield of the three realms. One after another, the great emperors stood out. Behind the celestial court was the master of the celestial court, a supreme and terrifying giant. Suddenly, the strongest great emperors of the celestial world, who were participating in the war, didn't hesitate. They immediately made up their minds to follow the celestial court. With the current power of the celestial court, the dark world was already heavily damaged. The celestial world was even more fearful of Su Yen. The unification of the three realms might really happen to them. The great cause that no one had been able to accomplish for a long time might really happen one day. Kill, in the battlefield of the three realms, the Celestial Court launched an all-out attack. The Tao Saint Immortals could no longer participate in the war. They rushed into the depths of the Three-World Mountain to prevent any major changes. Once this path was broken, it would lead to a major uncontrollable change. No matter what, this path could not be broken. Therefore, the Celestial Court's upper echelons unanimously decided to unify the three realms and conquer the vast war map world. Kill! In the grand war map world, there were mountains of corpses and seas of blood. In the various worlds, the army charged out in full force. The battle line was stretched endlessly, affecting the vast world. The space-time Emperor commanded an army. He was very experienced. He had once called upon the entire Celestial World army to fight the Dark World in the battlefield of the Three Realms. Currently, the Dark World's war channel had sunk. The Celestial Emperor's power was unparalleled. This channel was destroyed, and the Dark World's path to the core of the Three Realms was broken. Although the Dark World still had the strength to regroup and fight their way out, it was meaningless. If not for the Dark Coffin, the Celestial Court's army would have directly charged into the Dark World and started the final battle. Moreover, the Dark World's countless troops couldn't return to the Dark World. In the situation where a large number of ancestor gods had died, the Dark World's combat power was extremely limited. In order to minimize the losses, the Spacetime Emperor commanded an army to surround the Dark World and swallow the entire Dark World army. Once this step was completed, there would be no more fighting in the battlefield of the Three Realms. Defeated? Are we going to be defeated? The ancestor god Tianli roared in grief. The path to the Dark World was broken, and they had no home to return to. Ancestor Tianhun lost control of his emotions. In fact, ever since the Celestial Court launched a surprise attack on the battlefield of the Three Realms, the Dark World had practically emptied itself of all its resources. In this battle, even without the participation of Tao Saint Immortals, the Celestial Court had already dominated more than half of the battlefield of the Three Realms, conquering a vast world. In this battle, the Dark Emperor had lost to the Celestial Court's strongest trump card. The Dark World army that filled the sky lost their morale. The group of ancestor gods who were still alive howled in despair. After so many years of fighting, could it be that they had finally lost to the Celestial Court? The Three Realms were dominated by the Dark World, the Human World, and the Celestial World. Although the Celestial Court belonged to the Human World, it couldn't be considered as the true human world. Now they were going to establish their orthodoxy in the battlefield of the Three Realms and rebuild the Celestial Court lineage. A terrifying giant was about to be born. Year after year passed. The more Su Yin fought, the stronger he became. His essence, energy, and spirit surged to the peak, accumulating a vast amount of resources in preparation for his future breakthrough into the strongest Emperor realm. Ancestor God Tianli, Ancestor God Tianhun, and a series of ancestor gods from the Dark World were all wiped out. Big Brother and the others temporarily stopped. The Celestial Court entered an era of great military training. The battlefield of the Three Realms continued. The more victories there were, the greater the shock to the various races in the Celestial World. Who would have thought that the Dark World would one day suffer a crushing defeat? A large number of the strongest ancestor gods had died, and the Dark World didn't make any movements. It seemed like they had given up on the battlefield of the Three Realms. Just as Black King expected, the Celestial World once again sent a large number of troops to the battlefield. Take them all. Blackie's decision made some experts unhappy. They were already about to win. Don't be so stingy. They asked for a place to cultivate. We'll give it to them. Blackie said solemnly, in the future, we still have to attack the Celestial World. There will be even bigger battles. The stronger the army, the better. Train the army of the Celestial Court well. You have to know that if we suddenly unify the Three Realms in the future, there will be chaos without a strong army to guard it. The older generation of soldiers stopped fighting and recuperated, leaving the battlefield to the army of the celestial world. If they wanted to join the current celestial court, they couldn't do it without proof. The war continued. The military training lasted for 10 years before it ended. The 3 emperor clans are completely furious. They even used such methods. What fate do they have in the future? Su Yen looked at the celestial world. The vast universe was overflowing with bloody light. The 3 large weapons were placed horizontally above the dome, sealing off the entire celestial world and preventing any races from retreating. In fact, they had to seal it off. The celestial court dominated the battlefield of the 3 realms. The various races in the celestial world might change sides and flock to the core of the 3 realms. At that time, the celestial world would really become an empty shell. After 100 years of war, the celestial court didn't suffer any losses. Instead, it was even more powerful than before. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed. The situation of the battlefield of the 3 realms had changed greatly. The celestial court's billions of troops guarded the borders and announced that they were rebuilding. The 4th realm was formed just like that. Chapter 2149. The dark world was calm, and no aura was emitted. Today, the celestial court announced to the world that Big Brother had personally spoken. The celestial court was rebuilt. The prehistoric Big Brother, the founder of the celestial court, played a crucial role in the growth of the Tao Celestial Emperor and was one of his teachers. Now, he controlled the celestial court, controlled the myriad worlds cauldron, and engraved decrees that spread throughout the world, resounding in the ears of billions of living beings. The celestial court is invincible. The celestial court is invincible. The murderous soldiers roared, waving their weapons, stimulating their blood, and emitting a terrifying battle aura. They were all soldiers who had retreated from the bloody battlefield, and their spirit was too terrifying. The great military training ended, the celestial court was rebuilt, and the 3-realm battlefield was united. From this moment onward, a myriad of worlds bloomed within the grand 3 realms battlefield. It was like a myriad of stars in the universe were rumbling as they revolved, and they transformed into an enormous region of life that emanated boundless light and flowed with divine might that shook the heavens and the earth. Boom! An enormous explosion resounded, and it swept through the vast space of the 3 dimensions and swept through countless clans and clans. Suddenly, the celestial world was sealed, and suddenly there were 3 emperor weapons to protect it. The storm from the 3-realm battlefield was too fierce, as if the celestial emperor was roaring, and supreme laws descended. The aura was unparalleled, shaking the space of the 3 realms. Invincible, invincible, invincible! The army shouted, announcing to the 3 realms. The celestial court was rebuilt, and a new era began. The first year of the celestial court calendar was an unparalleled golden age, forming a great fortune, a great structure, and a supreme world. The celestial court is rebuilt. The strongest emperors of the celestial world sighed. The 6 strongest giants, together with hundreds of emperors behind them, were the strongest that joined the celestial court from the celestial world, and their lineup could not be ignored. At the end of the huge palace, Big Brother's godly might was vast, his blood boiling. He was as tall as an emperor, possessing unparalleled heavenly might as he issued decrees. The giants of the celestial realm knew very well that their Big Brother was a supreme giant who could even kill a great ancestor. Other than Tao Saint Immortals, he was currently the strongest person in the celestial court. Although the celestial world's addition to the heavenly court's lineup could not be ignored, the heavenly court's strongest emperors were fewer. However, this was nothing. The heavenly court's size could not compare to the celestial world's in the first place. But in the Golden Great Era, where geniuses emerged in large numbers, where dragons and tigers contended for supremacy, supreme emperors emerged one after another. Suddenly, Zi Qilin, the eldest disciple of the head of the celestial court, didn't seem particularly bold and powerful among this group of people. One after another, there were peerlessly beautiful heavenly ladies, and one after another, peerlessly valiant young war gods. The lineup was quite impressive. This was the first time since the Great War of the Three Realms that the experts of the immortal world and the celestial court had gathered together. They truly understood the strength of the celestial court. Suddenly, a group of strongest emperors had not returned, but this group of peerless geniuses in the Golden Age had great hopes of becoming the strongest emperors in the future. The celestial court has been established. From now on, there will be no more wars between the three realms. Su Yen carried the giant axe on his back and secretly said in his heart, "In the future, the great war of the three realms will be led by the celestial court." Baokai laughed foolishly. Now they had also become great contributors and were bestowed with the title of Celestial Marquis. In the celestial court, they had an extraordinary foundation. I really hope that the heavens can see this day. Although the celestial court did not originate from the core of the human realm, it is still within the human realm. Big Goldie wiped his tears. His nose was sour and his heart was full of sorrow. After all, that was his master, Barry the Heavens, who had long been his. The human realm had been destroyed for billions of years. The sword ancestor was also deeply moved. The celestial court's reconstruction could also represent the human realm. Rumble! The myriad worlds shone. In an instant, terror overflowed into the heavens. Blackie came. It took a lot of effort to move the back ancestral star here. The rear progenitor and the universe world merged into one. In an instant, this place became completely different. It was as if it had turned into the huge myriad heavens celestial court world. It was also as if the slumbering celestial emperor was gradually awakening. Its might shook the past and present, looking down on everything. This is the strongest celestial court, a complete and flawless environment. The celestial world's emperors were all shocked. They were also bestowed with the title of Celestial Marquis. In the future, they would call themselves members of the celestial court. Before this, the Big Brother and Black King discussed and specially bestowed the titles of the celestial world's 6 great emperors with the title of 6 elders of the celestial court. Rumble! The fire of fortune of the celestial court became stronger and stronger. In the celestial world, where the 3 emperor weapons covered the sky, the most powerful emperors occupied one after another, their faces ashen. Not to mention the great ancestor and second ancestor, the 3 most powerful emperors that had been hidden in the celestial race's ancestral land walked out, shaking the celestial world. The celestial race paid a huge price and promised to gather all the old monsters of the celestial world to form the Celestial World Alliance. The current celestial world couldn't be underestimated. It still had a deep foundation. The 3 emperor weapons were constantly operating, binding the various races of the celestial world together. It clearly told them that sooner or later, the celestial court would attack the celestial world. The Celestial World Alliance was in chaos. The experts who were originally wavering were now reassured by the 3 emperor clans. These years, the celestial race had been busy with a huge matter. The opening of a vast project was simply opening the river of history. At the end of the region, there was an unimaginable existence that wanted to cross the immeasurable river of time and return to the celestial world. Without a doubt, the great ancestors' actions were equivalent to intimidating them and also showing their foundation. It was clearly telling them that the celestial court had the master of the celestial court. The 3 emperor clans also had a supreme existence behind them. Sooner or later, they would be able to return. We will advance and retreat together. The Celestial World Alliance had reached an agreement. It was already a matter of life and death. They had to choose a side. No one could benefit from both sides. What was even more cruel was that the 3 emperor weapons had been operating for hundreds of years. This was a heavy blow to the celestial world. Some of the ancient worlds at the border were about to become wastelands. To maintain the operation of the three Emperor weapons, the celestial world had to constantly consume a huge amount of divine power. The deficit was too great. In such a situation, not only was the Celestial World Alliance established, but the three Emperor weapons also cut off the essence of the Celestial World's 8 desolates and 10 lands, creating an extremely shocking environment. This was the strongest foundation of the Celestial World Alliance. It was also one of the temptations that attracted everyone to join the Celestial World Alliance. This is good. We will advance and retreat together. When my master returns, the Celestial Court won't be able to stop him. The 3 realms will be ours sooner or later. The great ancestor's mind was set. He drew a big picture for them. With the help of these experts and the 3 Emperor weapons, it was enough to ensure the safety of the celestial world. No matter how strong the Celestial Court was, they wouldn't be able to break in. The reconstruction of the Celestial Court was celebrated by the entire world. The celebration lasted for 3 whole months. The golden age of the Celestial Court was also announced. The rear progenitor was built behind the Celestial Court. It was very far from the 3 Realms Mountain. Black King originally wanted to push the rear progenitor towards the 3 Realms Mountain, but Tao Saint Immortal didn't agree. After all, if there was a great disaster in the future, this place would become the first battlefield. As the Celestial Court became stronger and stronger, the aura of good fortune grew thicker. Tao Saint Immortal could often leave and move around. Now, under the suppression of the Celestial Court, it would be very difficult for the enemy to break in. That path won't work at all. It's like entering the depths of the buried Emperor Vile Earth. It's too dangerous. 3 years later, Blackie and the others returned. They were all covered in wounds and dispirited. Su Yen was also mentally exhausted. His body was covered in blood. After witnessing the most terrifying world of Vile Earth, he had broadened his horizons and broadened his mind. They went to explore, wanting to understand something. They used a giant axe to open a path, but they returned in failure. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it was. The river of time and space was in chaos, and they often encountered the power of time. Even the most powerful emperor couldn't hold on for long. Moreover, they suffered great losses and had to return. Roar! Half a month later, a hysterical roar exploded from the depths of the Celestial Court. It reverberated in the land of 10,000 realms and had a great influence. Su Yen and the others rushed over. Ancestor God Tianhun was dead. Big Brother personally took action. After a long time, he used the Stealing Heaven art to retrieve Ancestor God Tianhuan's heaven-opening soul scripture. Unfortunately, Ancestor God Tianli destroyed his primordial spirit before he died. He didn't obtain the heaven-opening soul scripture, which specialized in cultivating the body. However, this heaven-opening soul scripture was very important to Su Yen. His path was mainly based on his primordial spirit and his body. He chose this path mainly because his body was full of unknowns. If there was a huge mess in the future cultivation of his body, as long as Su Yan's primordial spirit wasn't destroyed, he still had the power to reverse the situation. Heaven-opening soul scripture. The upper echelons of the Celestial Court were in an uproar. This scripture was of great significance to the primordial spirit. Now, 8 heaven-opening scriptures were lying in the treasury of the Celestial Court. Inside the giant palace, they were waiting for the experts to carve the scriptures and take them away. Big Brother took out the black heavenly halberd and the god-shattering spear. His expression was solemn. These 2 great weapons had been passed down for a long time. He was prepared to work together with the Tao Saint Immortals to refine them and turn them into supreme treasures of the Celestial Court. This wasn't a small project. Su Yen took out the giant axe and handed it to Big Brother. The giant axe could shatter and reconstruct the 2 supreme treasures. With the world cauldron as a cauldron, it took a total of 9 years to reconstruct the weapons. After a period of time, the 2 supreme treasures could be produced. Moreover, there was also a large number of the strongest Emperor weapons that they had obtained from this battle. They were all really amazing. They might as well reforge them together to strengthen the strongest power of the Celestial Court. The second ancestral land of the Celestial Court, the inner world of the three-world mountain. Su Yen calmed down and cultivated. He discussed the great path with the experts of the Celestial Court. The days flew by quickly. Sometimes, when he opened his eyes, a year and a half had passed. He had been meditating and hadn't cultivated. There was still a bigger thing to do in the future. What? Su Yen was suddenly awakened. His eyes widened as he looked at the deepest part of the three-world mountain. He felt an extremely grand aura suddenly awakening and erupting. It was becoming more and more terrifying and powerful. It was so powerful that it suppressed the entire three-world mountain and spread throughout the universe of the Celestial Court. At the same time, the kings of the Celestial Court rose. Was a great war coming? This was too fast. There was no preparation at all. The Celestial Court had just been rebuilt. Was it going to face the biggest challenge? After all, the three-world mountain led to the deepest part of the vile earth. Once the great war in the vile earth spread here, the core of the three-world mountain would have to bear a destructive pressure. Its master's aura. He's back. The purple Chelan's eyes were filled with tears. He saw a supreme figure crossing the river of time and walking towards the Celestial Court. The earth-shaking roar shook the great world of the Celestial Court and spread to the ears of billions of creatures. The whole world was shocked. The Tao Celestial Emperor had returned. Chapter 2150. Black King's body suddenly became boundless, trampling through the starry sky as he rushed over, sensing Tao Celestial Emperor's aura. This aura was too familiar. No matter how it changed, no matter how powerful Tao Celestial Emperor was, Big Black could still sense that this was Tao Celestial Emperor's aura, most likely coming from his main body. The purple Chelan's roar shook the Celestial Court, causing countless soldiers to cry out. Their blood surged, the commotion was too great, as if the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting. This directly triggered the Celestial Realm to be on full alert. The Celestial Realm Alliance wanted to conscript an army, feeling that the Celestial Court's aura was surging violently, tearing apart the heavens. Could it be that they wanted to launch an all-out attack on the Celestial Realm? The unparalleled Celestial Emperor was returning. In fact, if the Celestial Court's environment didn't cover the three realms' battlefield, then the power from beyond the heavens would have spread across the three realms in an instant. Has Celestial Emperor returned? A series of experts from the Celestial Court rushed over, feeling extremely shocked. Tens of millions of years had passed, but Tao's Celestial Emperor was unharmed. This alone was enough to make them feel at ease. The master of the Celestial Court, I've seen him before. Why does it feel like he's stronger than before? This kind of existence can still grow stronger, right? It's hard to believe. Heavenly Court's 6 elders were alarmed and terrified. The fluctuations that came from beyond the heavens were becoming more and more powerful. This was just too terrifying, pressuring them until they were suffocating and trembling, their bodies about to explode. Just how powerful was this existence? Even from such a great distance, even the 6 elders of the Celestial Court couldn't withstand it and had to kneel down and worship. Boom! Tao's Celestial Emperor's aura continued to increase, as if a giant was gradually awakening. The earth trembled, overlooking the boundless universe. Vaguely, a shadow appeared at the end of the river of history, crossing the river of epochs and thousands of eras, walking towards the three realms. This was enough to prove that Tao's Celestial Emperor was too far away from the three realms. With his power, he could cross the boundless sea in a short time, traverse the river of time, and walk a journey that celestial kings couldn't traverse in their lifetime. That shadow gradually approached, and it became more and more radiant. The might of the Celestial Emperor was fully displayed. Every time it took a step, the world seemed small and gray. It took 9 steps in a row, and it was as if it had awakened from the mythical history and stepped into the 3 realms. In an instant, the celestial court resonated with the environment. Billions of great daos appeared. The great world seemed small in front of the celestial emperor, and the billions of creatures were like dust. What a terrifying existence! He had seen Bury the Heavens before, but this one was even stronger than Bury the Heavens. His strength was unfathomable, and the celestial emperor's might was irresistible. He had crossed the river of epochs, traversed the boundless world, and returned to the 3 realms. "It's coming back!" Black King roared. When he saw Tao's celestial emperor's foot stride over, he was instantly filled with terror. The outer world rumbled violently. What emperor burial ground? What forbidden land of life? What land of death? Even the chaotic river of time exploded under the pressure of this golden foot. A path was directly pierced through, and the path of emperor burial ground exploded. Endless laws burned, releasing countless great Tao runes. Great Tao reconstruction! Su Yen shouted, his eyes flashing with shock. He had been to emperor burial ground before. Along this path, there were many difficulties, and he could encounter fatal disasters at any time. Now, this path of misfortune was beginning to be reconstructed during the process of explosion, turning into a golden path that blossomed with auspicious multicolored light. "Brother!" Tao Saint Immortal called out, and she saw more. Tao's celestial emperor was too far away, so far that it was hard to imagine. It was as if he had crossed the sea of time, the abyss of order, and the turbulence of chaos. His majestic aura spread across the 3 realms battlefield, but even someone as powerful as Tao's celestial emperor couldn't completely cross over and return in a short period of time. The journey was too far, and Tao's celestial emperor used his great magic power to traverse the river of time. At this moment, Big Brother and the others all rushed towards Tao Saint Immortal's world. From here, they could feel Tao's celestial emperor's strength on a deeper level. "It's even more shocking than before," Black King said excitedly. After disappearing for tens of millions of years, Tao's celestial emperor's cultivation had improved. His experiences were probably extremely complicated. In the end, the golden foot pressed down on this world, bringing with it boundless space-time turbulence and ancient desolation. It was as if it had crossed over the end of the river of time to press down. Once Tao's celestial emperor returns, what does Dark World and Immortal World count for? In the entire 3 realms great era, there is already no enemy who can contend against Tao's celestial emperor. Su Yan's emotions surged. Was a new great era about to begin? Was the era of the 3 realms great unification coming? Why didn't he cross over? What happened? Could it be that he encountered a powerful enemy? Big Black roared, appearing very agitated. The golden foot towered above the 9 heavens, a bit blurry, and its figure couldn't be seen. There was only a giant foot. Hong Long. Tao Saint Immortal tossed out the Myriad Worlds Cauldron, reviving it to the extreme. The Myriad Worlds Cauldron shone. After all, this was Tao's celestial emperor's life weapon. The heavens and worlds within bloomed, producing an astonishing reaction with Tao's celestial emperor's aura. In that instant, the cauldron shone, refining all things in the primal chaos, reflecting some scenes. "What's that?" Su Yan's eyes widened as he captured an earth-shattering battle. The Myriad Worlds Cauldron reflected some outrageous scenes. He saw Tao's celestial emperor, his black hair draped over his shoulders, his crown towering over the past and present, his heroic spirit imposing. Unfortunately, the scene only flashed for a moment before disappearing. He was fighting a great battle that seemed to originate from the long river of history. World-destroying light whistled, and even the great Tao didn't exist. His battle cries shook the past and dazzled the present. He was fighting with someone, and it was very intense. Suddenly, even across the distant world and untouchable spacetime, a world-destroying storm swept through, causing all life to tremble and this world to shake. In the blurry battle scene, there seemed to be more than one person. He encountered a group of enemies, and the killing was too ruthless. Great destruction occurred in the distant world. Suddenly, across the long river of time and space, there were still resplendent radiances transmitted here. Was that the deepest part of the Emperor Burial Vile Earth? Who was Tao's celestial emperor fighting with? Roar! Blackie roared with incomparable ferocity. However, no matter how loud it roared, it was useless. It felt pale and powerless. The enemy was definitely too terrifying, causing Tao's celestial emperor to not return for a long time. Even if they really rushed over, they wouldn't be of much help. This feeling was too painful. The Ziqilan and the others felt terrible. They weren't strong enough, not invincible enough. Perhaps even someone as terrifying as Tao's celestial emperor couldn't comprehend the ultimate battle. Boom! The great battle welcomed a major turning point. It was as if the long river of history had changed its course, and the enemies were sent flying. That was an extremely terrifying shadow. The Emperor's might flourished, illuminating the past, present, and future. His body was sticky with blood. It seemed to be the enemy's, but it also seemed to be his own. The blood was too terrifying. It seemed to be the remnant blood of a supreme being drifting down. Every drop of it could tear apart the universe and oceans, evaporate a great world, and turn it into a world of vile earth. It was as if it flowed down from the depths of the 9 heavens, dyeing the entire 3 realms red. After defeating the enemies, is it time to return? Big Black spoke as if he was in a dream. Just what level did that great battle reach? It was indescribable. It involved the long river of history. Suddenly, even the most powerful emperor couldn't explain it clearly. Or perhaps it could be said that the returning Tao celestial emperor wasn't his true body, but merely a clone crossing over. In that instant, Tao's celestial emperor's foot that crossed over became much clearer. For a short period of time, it propped up the heavens, as if it turned into a pillar of the universe. It was to the extent where the large golden foot shone, as if it was going to reveal the full appearance of the magical body. Even though it was still a bit blurry and mysterious, at this moment, the Ziqilan and the others all sensed the spiritual aura that belonged to Tao's celestial emperor. This was definitely him. He was returning. Vaguely, a grand syllable blossomed, as if the Supreme Being was roaring. When it reached here, it turned into the 9 heavens' immortal thunder, making one's ears tremble. What is the Celestial Emperor saying? War God Xing Tian cried out. He heard the Supreme Being's words, but it was too mysterious, so he couldn't hear it clearly. In fact, even if he could hear it, it was difficult to understand what was being said. This was a secret message that was sent through the long river of time and space with great magical power. It was encrypted with a special method to prevent enemies from eavesdropping. Blackie felt that this was extremely important. They had cut off contact with Tao's celestial emperor. Now that he was sending out a message, it must be extremely important. Look, Master's magical body is about to be condensed. The Ziqilan roared. No matter what, they could now confirm that the celestial emperor was fine. Even if he encountered the enemies of the heavens, he was still fine. He had even sent out a secret message to condense an incarnation. Boom! The giant feet seemed to be a real body of flesh and blood. They bloomed with brilliant light, as if they had turned into a grand ancient life star. Soon, the feet shone, the waist, the chest, and the head appeared. Tao's celestial emperor used his great magical power to reflect the long river of time and sent a magical body over. He must have sent out an important message. Sword Ancestor said, it must be related to the 3 realms. Blackie and the others found it hard to accept. Tao's celestial emperor still couldn't return? Finally, a figure appeared and opened his eyes. Terrifying cold lightning shot out, causing the great Tao of the heavens to tremble. Celestial Emperor! The kings of the celestial court roared, excited and shocked. This magical body had intelligence. Although it was still blurry and illusory, it could already speak. What is it saying? I don't understand? Tao's celestial emperor frowned. His words were bitter and difficult to understand, as if he was deliberately hiding it to prevent the enemy from hearing it. Vaguely, Su Yan felt that Tao's celestial emperor's eyes were staring at him. In fact, Su Yan's heart was already in turmoil. They couldn't understand, but Su Yan vaguely understood a bit, but it was difficult to understand, because he realized that Tao's celestial emperor's voice of the great Tao was buried in heaven and earth, buried in the three realms. Boom! In an instant, his illusory magical body shone and turned into a divine rain of great Tao light. It began to gradually collapse. Come back! Black King roared madly. His entire body emitted power to reconstruct the collapsing magical body. The Celestial Emperor's great Tao was too powerful. No one could stop it. No power could help. It collapsed into a golden rain of light that scattered between heaven and earth. We're too weak. The kings couldn't accept it. They didn't hear the contents of Tao's Celestial Emperor's message clearly and disappeared just like that. Something's wrong. Look. A peerless beauty in white walked over. Her aura swallowed the universe and had a peerless and domineering aura. She was called Fairy Jun Qiu Junjun realized that Tao's Celestial Emperor's collapsing incarnation was reforming and gradually turning into a golden sheet of paper. It was like a piece of paper that had been pulled out from the three realms after the shackles of the Celestial Emperor's incarnation had been broken. He had left something important behind. Heavenly Palm. Su Yan felt that Tao's Celestial Emperor was passing down the Tao. It was like he was writing an unparalleled great mystique. It was also like he was writing a strange secret language. He realized that the aura of the paper was urging the Heavenly Palm to operate. It felt like it was going out of control. Chapter 2151. Crossing through endless time and space just to leave behind a secret message to shock the experts of the Celestial Court. Big Black's claws trembled as he gripped the golden paper. It was engraved with profound patterns and was protected by the Celestial Emperor's Tao. Only the core members of the Celestial Court could decipher the secret message left on the decree. Why did he do this? Why was he so careful? Big Brother's expression was serious. He was too careful. The secret message passed down through time and space was not directly stated. Perhaps the Celestial Emperor had already said what he wanted to say, but they couldn't hear it. Therefore, the Celestial Emperor's incarnation turned into a golden paper and engraved the secret message. From this, it could be seen that the Tao's Celestial Emperor's enemy was too terrifying. Once he directly stated it, he might be captured by the enemy. What kind of message did he pass down? The atmosphere here was heavy and stifling, making it difficult for people to breathe. The Celestial Emperor floated in control, as if he had become the eternity of the world. The grand and majestic Celestial Emperor's laws flowed, isolating all probing. We'll take our leave first. The 6 elders of the Celestial Court stood up and bid farewell. This matter concerned the Tao's Celestial Emperor and the Celestial Court's top secret. They were very tactful and knew that the Celestial Court could not fully trust them. Therefore, they left decisively to express their attitude. If they were determined to follow the Celestial Court, they believed that one day they would become one. Big Brother, open it quickly. There must be important information coming out. Big Black urged. It needed the complete Celestial Emperor's scripture to open it. Big Brother was silent for a moment before awakening the myriad world cauldron. This item hung in this world and merged with the independent universe opened by the Tao Celestial Emperor, forming a grand Celestial Emperor's Tao space. So careful? War God Xing Tian felt a headache. Big Brother was extremely cautious. When it came to such matters, they had to be extremely careful. They suddenly felt that it was absolutely safe, but just in case. This world was completely sealed and isolated from the rest of the world. No information could be leaked out. They believed that even if an existence comparable to the Tao Celestial Emperor was spying in the dark, he would be able to silently see the inside of this world. 1. Big Brother opened his mouth and spat out a scripture order that penetrated the golden paper. Instantly, it became resplendent and blazing. The seal on it gradually dispersed, but it did not completely break. The Celestial Emperor's law order was still interwoven. Very bad. The Black King's body tensed up. The Tao Celestial Emperor was so cautious because he was worried that a terrifying giant would see through the contents. At this moment, the core members of the Celestial Court were gathered in this world. What was the content of the golden paper? Old Big Brother watched. Time passed bit by bit. His brows were deeply furrowed. Big Brother, there are no outsiders here. Is there anything you can't say? Tao Saint Celestial asked. He had a bad feeling. That's not it. The Big Brother shook his head. His gray hair fell over his shoulders as he said, the secret message left on it cannot be seen through. Even if we try to decipher it with the scriptures, we will not be able to see through it. This has nothing to do with the orthodoxy. Tao Saint Celestial took it and studied it. She couldn't see much. There were mysterious words engraved on it, and the aura it emitted was indescribable. It seemed very strange and strange. Just what was the Tao Celestial Emperor sending them? Blackie speculated. Since the Celestial Emperor's orthodoxy can't be opened, what's involved might not be the Celestial Court. Just what is it? The Black King roared. He was burning with anxiety. It must be very important, or else he wouldn't have sent a message across time and space. Maybe he needed their help, or maybe he needed other help, but he couldn't figure out the secret on it. Let me do it. Su Yen walked over and raised his hand to grab the golden paper. In an instant, the golden paper shone. Interweaving with the Tao of the Celestial Emperor, it fell down piece by piece. Suddenly, Su Yen seemed to have escaped into a mysterious world. He was isolated from the rest of the world and couldn't feel the flow of time. He couldn't see through the traces of time. Su Yen was shocked. Only his primordial spirit could observe it. His corporeal body and everything else were silently isolated. Why was the Tao Celestial Emperor so careful? Could it be that the Celestial Court's environment was no longer safe? His primordial spirit opened its heavenly eyes and looked at the golden paper. There were strange words engraved on it. They were like powerful Tao marks, but also like flowing golden whirlpools. It was mysterious and unfathomable. This kind of power, this kind of trajectory, this kind of aura. Su Yen felt a headache. He felt that it was extremely similar to the Heavenly Fate Palm, but it definitely wasn't the Heavenly Fate Palm. It was another form of deducing the great Tao. If this golden paper was engraved with a world-shaking divine ability, then it was naturally peerless when deduced with the Tao of the Celestial Emperor. But how could a divine ability be transmitted across time and space? If it really was an important message, it should be related to the transcendence path. But the Tao of the Celestial Emperor couldn't be studied. This meant that it wasn't. Su Yen frowned. His primordial spirit tried hard to observe. The words on the golden paper seemed to have transformed into golden ants that crawled on the paper. These ants were very small, but they looked especially big. The faster they crawled, the stronger the aura they emitted. One ant seemed to be able to move the 3 realms. It was as if it was deducing the heavens and rotating all laws. In the end, the golden paper shone with divine light. The aura it emitted became increasingly imposing and inconceivable. It was as if it was pressing down from the ancient river. It could easily collapse heaven and earth. Su Yen felt as if he had fallen into an unfathomable whirlpool. His primordial spirit was twisting, trembling, and about to explode. He couldn't take it anymore. Although he tried hard to open his primordial spirit to remember the contents of the golden paper, He couldn't see the full picture. In the end, what appeared in his eyes was death and destruction. Pu. In the end, Su Yan's entire body trembled. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out fiercely. Su Yan, what's wrong with you? Xing Tian shouted. Long Daesong roared. He quickly picked up Su Yan, who flew out. His body was on the verge of collapse. Pain flashed between his brows. Gotcha. Su Yan's frontal bone was split into pieces. His primordial spirit was on the verge of collapse. His soul essence was greatly damaged. He roared in pain, feeling as if his brain was about to explode. The Tao Divine Immortal's expressions changed. They were fine, but Su Yan's primordial spirit was almost destroyed. Could it be that he understood the contents? He encountered a terrifying counterattack. I'm fine. Su Yan clenched his fists tightly. He coughed out blood, trying his best to remain calm and suppress the injuries to his primordial spirit. What did you see? Big Black asked. Was it a rescue message that left a space-time path? Su Yan was about to say something when the big brother waved his hand, stopping Black King's following words. Slowly digest what you see. There's no need to say anything. The big brother's expression was extremely serious. Su Yan definitely didn't see the full content. Perhaps he didn't understand, but he could definitely see the hidden meaning of the golden paper. There are no outsiders here. Black King bared his teeth and then calmed down. The Tao Divine Emperor was so careful, even observing the contents of the golden paper. It seemed like there were some things that couldn't be said. However, this matter was extremely terrifying. There shouldn't be an eye in this world watching them in the dark. The big brother put the golden paper into the myriad world cauldron. This was an absolutely safe place. It couldn't be stolen by outsiders. Su Yan nodded with a calm expression. His eyes looked at the broken three-world mountain. His eyes were deep, and no one knew what he was thinking. Big Black felt that Su Yan knew something, but the big brother didn't let him ask. Black King was impatient, and only the big brother could suppress him. In fact, Black King was very clear. So what if he knew? With their strength, they weren't qualified to participate in the battle of the Burial Emperor Vile Earth's ultimate destination. Attacking the immortal world must be put on the agenda. Big Black's words were shocking. The Celestial Court needed to develop and become stronger to face the future dangers. If they could take down the immortal world, the rewards would be terrifying. The Celestial Court would definitely take the opportunity to produce a group of powerful figures. However, the immortal world was guarded by 3 Emperor weapons. It would be difficult to take it down completely. They wanted a complete immortal world, not a shattered one. Currently, the Celestial Court had a strong foundation and produced many experts. There was no disparity in high-end power. Su Yan's eyes shot out cold lightning. He quickly came into contact with Grand Perfection Emperor and obtained the Heaven-Opening Soul Scripture. In fact, without the 3 Emperor weapons, Su Yan was very confident that he could hold on to the immortal world source. Big bro, I don't know what kind of difficulties the Tao Mausoleum encountered, but I believe that it was extremely bitter. For the sake of being prepared, your respected self should merge with the Imperial Court's environment. Perhaps you might be able to take that final step. Big Black spoke his thoughts. Su Yan was shaken. The Celestial Court's environment was created by Tao's Celestial Emperor. If there was hope, then Tao Saint Immortal naturally had the highest chance of becoming a supreme existence like Tao Celestial Emperor. Unfortunately, Tao Saint Immortal didn't cultivate Tao Celestial Emperor's Tao legacy. On the contrary, the big brother had experienced countless tribulations and had the same constitution as Tao Celestial Emperor. If he really decided to take this step, there was a high chance of success. Of course, the most suitable candidate was Tao Celestial Emperor's son. Unfortunately, Tao Celestial Emperor's son and daughter had also left. I agree. Big brother, don't hesitate anymore. Walk the same path as big brother. Tao Saint Immortal nodded. If the celestial court's environment could be controlled by the Big Brother, then he would be the true master of the celestial court. But the prerequisite was that the Big Brother had to replace Tao's celestial emperor's environment. If the Big Brother could merge with the celestial court's environment, then he would be an expert comparable to a progenitor. He would be invincible in the celestial court and could suddenly turn the tide and attack the immortal world. "I'll try my best," the Big Brother sighed. At this point, he had to use all of his trump cards. This battle was no longer about the three realms. They had to consider the cruel problems outside the three realms. They had to consider the worst possible situation. Su Yen recuperated. It took more than a month for his primordial spirit to recover. Black King looked for Su Yen several times. He was impatient and wanted to ask about it, but he did not speak in the end. Su Yen listened to the Big Brother and hid this secret in the deepest part of his heart. Today, he prepared to set off. Xing Tian and the others did not agree. It was too dangerous. Even returning was difficult. Su Yen wanted to explore the Emperor Burial Ground. He wanted to explore the most terrifying training ground outside the three realms to further temper himself. "I need to temper myself. My Emperor's path has been too smooth. I have to experience cruel tempering." The heaven's embryo that had been nurtured for billions of years had often consulted Tao Saint Immortal. He knew that his trump cards had not been fully released. He still had a long way to go before he could become the strongest emperor. He had to experience the cruelest tempering. In fact, ever since he was crowned emperor, his improvement was too great. He had created the scripture, but his own flaws were increasing. Just like that, Su Yen prepared to set off. One man and one horse stepped onto the most ferocious emperor burial ground. Bao Kai and the others also wanted to go, but Su Yen rejected them. He had a huge axe. Moreover, he and the Long Daesong worked together. No matter how difficult the situation was, they could overcome it. Day after day, year after year. Su Yen left for 10 years, 100 years, the peak. Chapter 2152. The buried Emperor Vile Earth was boundlessly vast. The dark and unknown world was quiet and dark, and the atmosphere was excessively silent. Pieces of broken universes howled with destructive fluctuations, indicating that there had once been a powerful civilization here that had been destroyed without leaving behind any inheritances. A long time ago, there had been a powerful extraterrestrial civilization outside the three realms. There had been many starry sky paths with the three realms as the core that radiated out into the outerverse. The formation of the buried Emperor Vile Earth had caused the outerverse to become extremely dilapidated. There were broken starry skies everywhere, and there was a lifeless land of death. This path was too difficult to walk. Even the Black King found it difficult to return, and it was easy for him to get lost. Taking a wrong path would cause him to deviate from his original path. Before Su Yen left, he had taken control of Big Brother's life weapon so that he could sense the destination of the Celestial Court. After all, the Celestial Court had been rebuilt, and the environment was strong, so it would not be too difficult to return. The long, bloody path, and the cold and desolate universe. For almost 200 years, Su Yen had not encountered a single living creature. However, he had encountered many footprints left behind by the Celestial Court. There was nothing dull or tedious about this path of cultivation. There was only great fear and calamity. Time, how much time has passed? Su Yen was groggy. He and his mount stood tall on a huge and broken planet. It was like a historical planet, modeled with time and precipitated by history. It seemed to have floated here for millions of years. Su Yen was in a daze. He felt as if he had slept for thousands of years. Boom! Long Daesong's stiff body glowed and trembled violently. The blood in his body boiled as he let out a low roar. His primordial spirit returned from its lost state. It seemed like it had spent a long time roaming the void. Daesong's body was weak, and his golden eyes scanned the surroundings. After endless bitter battles and dangers, Daesung had become very calm. He could erupt with terrifying power in an instant and kill strong enemies. One man and one mount distanced themselves from this star. It contained an unimaginable power of time, and if they acted rashly, it would trigger a great disaster. They chose to avoid it and not touch it. On the arduous path of cultivation, he continued to move forward with hot blood. In the past 200 years, the man and his mount had encountered more than 10 fatal attacks from the vile earth. There were a few times where they almost lost their lives and died inside. Over the years, Su Yan had never used the giant axe. He had always relied on his own strength to fight through countless deathlands. His strength had increased tremendously, and he had already reached the 9th heaven of absolute emperor. His primordial spirit had been tempered to the extreme, and his corporeal body had grown even stronger. However, Su Yan felt that he was still lacking a lot. He still needed a stronger forging. However, he had gained a lot in the past few years. All kinds of rare treasures were dug out. They also passed through the prehistoric ruins and obtained the treasures, scriptures, and divine abilities of the extraterrestrial civilization. They even dug out 4 quasi-emperor medicines. They took the opportunity to temper their corporeal bodies and strengthen their qi and blood. Long Daesung was already standing at the 7th heaven of absolute emperor. Their strength had improved tremendously, but they had also paid too much. It was a pity that they couldn't find a complete emperor medicine. Back then, Black King and the others had lived here for tens of millions of years. They had truly suffered too much. Big Black and the others' goal was to reach the depths of the burial Emperor Vile Earth. Unfortunately, they failed and didn't explore the path. As they gradually went deeper, Su Yan felt like he was about to lose himself. His senses that originated from the celestial quartz environment were faintly discernible. There were no coordinates, no path, no guidance. He could only rely on himself. Now, he had no plans to return. Another few decades passed. What Su Yan found inconceivable was that he encountered a living expert. He broke through a prehistoric ruin and discovered that the ruin's energy had dried up. However, in the depths of the spring of life, there was an expert who had lived until now. Without a doubt, this triggered a world-shaking battle. This expert was exceptionally terrifying when he was alive. It was extraordinary that he could live until now. Although he had suffered serious injuries and was old and weak, his aura was too fierce. He even wanted to refine Long Daesung to replenish his energy. Roar! A world-shaking roar exploded. His qi and blood were matchless, drowning out the great world. A giant dragon-blood crocodile appeared. It was 100,000 zhang long, and its cold eyes were like giant red lanterns. Demonic qi surged, and it could erupt with boundless combat strength at the slightest movement. Dao friend, isn't it just a mount? Hand him over to me and I'll share the other fortunes with you. It had seen through Long Daesung's extraordinariness. Once it refined him and extracted his essence, it would be enough to recover its losses over the years. Kill! One man and one mount attacked fiercely. Su Yan's expression was cold. He brandished his fist imprints and his qi and blood surged. His eyes were like lightning as he directly charged forward without wasting a single word. The dragon-blood crocodile's expression was cold. It brandished its giant claws and smashed forward. It could easily destroy the universe. In an instant, it pierced through the great universe and charged towards Su Yan. Fist and claw collided. In an instant, Su Yan's combat strength soared to the strongest emperor domain. The dark universe was ignited with resplendent radiance as it tore apart the vile earth world. The battle had gone mad. This battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The prehistoric ruins were completely destroyed and the ancient world was riddled with holes. Su Yan's body was drenched in blood while Long Daesung's body was also in tatters. This was most likely an ancestor god who wasn't inferior to heavenly force. If it wasn't for its decline, Su Yen would have to bring out his giant axe to stop it. In the end, the dragon blood crocodile was no match. Its head was blasted apart by Su Yen and its body was trampled into pieces by Long Daesong. He had killed this terrifying existence. Roar! Daesong roared. Its tattered body was ignited with golden divine radiance. It opened its mouth and spat out a large amount of golden flames that burned the dragon blood crocodile's huge body. 3 days and 3 nights later, the fragrant smell of meat wafted from the ruins. The golden meat was surging with essence. The dragon blood crocodile's flesh was considered the essence of a supreme treasure. It was almost comparable to the essence of the emperor medicine. It was too extravagant to barbecue it directly. Su Yen refined the crocodile's skin and turned it into a battle armor for Daesong to wear. Su Yen refined its tendons into a bow. Once the blood-colored bow was pulled, it would shoot down the great stars in the outer realms. Its explosive power was earth-shattering. The giant crocodile was too miserable. Its tendons were pulled out and its skin was peeled off. Even the bones in its body were boiled into bone soup to nourish its body. They rested for half a year. Daesong had broken through to the 8th gate of the Emperor realm, and Su Yan's cultivation had also reached the Great Circle. Dragon blood crocodile, every part of its body is a treasure. Su Yen secretly said in his heart, if it wasn't for my astonishing advancement these few years, there wouldn't be much hope to get rid of it. It seems like I've already arrived at the depths of the vile earth. Before leaving, Su Yen consulted Big Black. They had also encountered the prehistoric giant vicious beasts attacks and encountered many difficult battles. There were no enemies in the outer realms. This was a great world where the strong preyed on the weak. Once they encountered one, there was no need to show mercy. They would be suppressed and killed directly. After passing through this world, the scenery in front of them gradually widened. It was as if they had barged into an imposing great world. It was full of a savage atmosphere. The thick earth was vast and the blue dome of heaven was deep and vast. What a strange world! Su Yen was astonished. This world was preserved extremely well and hadn't turned into a land of death. The world was too big. This referred to the flowers, grass, and trees. A stalk of grass was like a mountain and a tree towered into the sea of stars. They were just ordinary flowers, grass, and trees. It refreshed Su Yan's understanding. The life in this world was very special. It was full of the atmosphere of the opening of the sky. Along the way, they encountered the sea blocking their path. Raging waves rolled on the surface of the sea with tens of thousands of zhang-high waves. One man and one mount charged into the sea. This sea was too big. It was a dark blue sea, its end unseen. The deeper they went, the more they discovered how extraordinary this sea was. It was too majestic, like the sea of the universe. Hong! Suddenly, a loud noise descended from the heavens. It was like a clap of thunder. At the moment of explosion, the sea surface danced chaotically, erupting with a huge tsunami that was full of terrifying power. Su Yen was horrified. What kind of life universe was this? When a tsunami erupted, it would most likely be able to tear apart immortal kings. This place wasn't suitable for the development of tribes, but what kind of tribe was it exactly? It was to the extent whereas the loud noise became louder and louder, ultimately shocking heaven and earth, and making ghosts and deities weep. Daesong felt a bit uneasy. His primordial spirit felt a bit of intense pain, as if it was about to be torn apart. There is something wrong with this sea. Su Yan's eyes widened. The sea surface changed, waves surging, tsunamis reaching into the heavens. Even the deep blue dome of heaven was trembling. One could vaguely see terrifying energy rising from the sea surface. Primal chaos surged, and it suddenly spun, simply turning into a great chaotic vortex. Daesong's body trembled chaotically, unable to stand stably. The enormous sea fought, aura suddenly berserk, releasing a terrifying tearing force, as if the long river of time was smashed open. Suppress! Su Yen released a great roar. One man and one mount erupted with power, the Emperor's suppression art operating, forcefully suppressing the powerful pulling force. However, Su Yan's face paled in the end. The heavens also changed, following the rotation, as if a great world was rotating. The heaven and earth where one man and one mount were turned into the core, also becoming the eye of the sea. Hong! A world-destroying aura erupted, the long river of time even appearing, affecting the past and present. Suppress! Su Yen roared angrily. Once they couldn't hold on and were sucked in, they might arrive in the future, or they might appear in the past. The power of this sea was rather sinister, like some kind of special and mysterious supreme treasure of the universe. Tsunamis overflowed into the heavens, great stars falling from the sky. Open for me! Su Yan's eyes widened, instantly standing at the most powerful emperor realm. He raised his fist and smashed outwards, hacking out an enormous sword radiance. The sword hacked through time, splitting apart the great river of eras, directly hacking open a crack in the sea surface's whirlpool. Daesung stepped on the void, instantly crossing the vast sea. As soon as they left, that crack closed on its own. Su Yen wasn't in the mood to pay it any attention. This world was too vicious. Who knew what kind of sinister things existed? Only, they barged into an even more terrifying world. The aura of savagery was strong, as if the sky was filled with giant primordial beasts, all of them suppressing over, making the chi and blood in their bodies surge and tremble chaotically. What a mysterious world! Su Yen sighed in amazement. This place was filled with a massive and majestic life aura, as if it was the three realms' greatest life form world, the creatures it produced also incomparably massive. Ow! Daesung cried out in alarm. In the great world covered in primordial forests, the life aura was boundless, covering one's body and mind. Right in front of them, the scene really was a bit unbelievable. What is that? Su Yan's eyes flashed with shock. After 200 years of bloody battles, he had seen all kinds of sinister things, but the massive world in front of him left Su Yen truly shocked. At this moment, Daesung and Su Yen felt a bit insignificant, because at the end of the world in front of them, there was a majestic body. It was too majestic, millions and millions of feet tall. Its feet were like mountain ridges, also like the pillars of the universe, supporting the sky dome. The deep blue dome of heaven only reached his waist. Su Yen clicked his tongue. What kind of life form was this? Wasn't it too big? Only, Su Yen didn't sense any signs of life. This giant seemed to be dead. Su Yan's breathing was slightly heavy. His eyes opened wide, activating the heavenly eye, gazing towards the giant. This gaze was enough to see through millions and millions of li, but he still didn't see the giant's head. His head seemed to be at the end of the universe, at the peak of the 9 heavens. Su Yen saw a huge head. In fact, this giant's appearance was exactly the same as a normal person, but it was unbelievably majestic. This was a real flesh and blood creature, not a Dharma characteristic Tao body. He's dead. Su Yen noticed that his frontal bone had collapsed, and there was no primordial spirit. Who killed him? This giant's vitality was unimaginably majestic. Heaven knew what level of powerhouse he was, but he was killed and lost his primordial spirit. Suddenly, Su Yen became alert because he saw that the giant's eyes were open, but they were empty. There were no eyes, and his pupils were empty like the universe's black holes. He was still alive? All of a sudden, Su Yen felt a powerful will being born between the heavens and the earth. An irresistible divine might came crashing down and pressed down on the man and his mount. Su Yan's eyes widened in anger. This giant emitted a will that made them kneel on the ground and worship him. You don't worship when you see your ancestor be a tree. It even opened its mouth, and the whole time and space trembled. The vast universe was shaking, and its words were more violent than the thunder from the 9 heavens, shattering the universe and peerless majesty. Chapter 21:53. A great might descended from the heavens, the massive world rumbling and shaking, as if a great earthquake was happening. Heaven and earth rumbled, the loud noise deafening. The words were even more intimidating than thunder, appearing just like that. Ancestor? Su Yan's fists clenched tightly, his cold eyes staring at the imposing giant. This was a 1,000,000 zhang tall giant. No one would believe it if news of this got out. Could it be that this creature was still alive? It was known as this world's ancestor expert. Or could it be that this massive world of life was established by this giant? Honglong. Immediately afterwards, the pressure became even greater, strong to the extreme, surging violently as if it was going to destroy the world. The heavens even collapsed, countless great cracks appearing, even the thick great earth starting to split apart. This world seemed to be heading towards its end. The domain was majestic and boundless heavenly might, crushing down on the man and mount. Long Daesong cried out in unease, its 4 limbs and large hooves shaking, its footing a bit unstable. The expert it faced was extremely terrifying, perhaps a great monster that had lived for countless years. You want me to kneel? Su Yan frowned as he looked at the majestic giant. Its body was bronze in color and it was wearing a huge colorful beast skin coat. It was as if it was made from tens of thousands of the strongest beast skins that covered its huge body. These beast skin clothes were a rare supreme treasure. Su Yan saw that many of the most powerful emperor-level beast skins were woven on them. The giant opened its eyes, enormous and empty, like a wormhole that led to the world within its body. You killed my mountain guardian divine beast, kneel and beg for forgiveness. The cold voice resounded once more, shocking the heavens and the earth. In front of its majestic body, even peak monarch-level experts seemed extremely tiny and not worth mentioning. Shock flashed through Su Yan's eyes. The dragon-blooded crocodile was his mountain guardian divine beast. One had to understand that it was a most powerful emperor-level expert, powerful to the extreme, at its peak condition not inferior to heavenly force ancestor gods. But such a terrifying existence was merely his mountain guardian divine beast? Could it be that this was an existence comparable to a divine immortal? It had already walked the path of transcendence. Your mountain guardian divine beast provoked me first. So what if I killed it? You've already fallen, and all that's left is a strand of your will. Su Yan spoke. He didn't think that the giant was still alive. Otherwise, why would he waste words with them? He would have just killed it directly. Those who defy the will of the primogenitor shall be destroyed. He once again spoke in a cold tone, appearing extremely domineering, high and mighty, as if he was the only one in the world. Boom! In an instant, the giant's head glowed, and 2 bolts of cold lightning shot out from its originally empty pupils. To the giant, the cold lightning was very small. However, to Su Yan, the cold lightning was huge. It was as if 2 great universes were slashing down. It contained an enormous amount of power as it tried to kill Su Yan. You're too arrogant. You shot out 2 beams of light to destroy me. Su Yan was furious. His eyes widened, and in that instant, he drew back the blood-colored bow, shooting out streak after streak of blood-colored divine light. This attack was extremely terrifying, reaching millions and millions of li above Fuyao. Roar! 2 streaks of arrow radiance, fast to the extreme, also instantly overflowing with demonic aura. They turned into 2 giant crocodiles, roaring loudly as they collided with the 2 beams of light. Heaven and earth exploded, and a rain of destructive light fell beside the man and his mount. The enormous and thick domain collapsed along with it. The atmosphere of the entire world was berserk. The giant axe on Su Yan's back was ready to chop out a powerful attack at any time. Suppress. The giant was furious. He opened his mouth and took a deep breath. The world was dark and one couldn't even see one's fingers in front of one's face. It was as if all matter was about to self-destruct, throwing the past and present into chaos. Even someone as powerful as Su Yan's body was about to break apart uncontrollably. This contained a terrifying amount of power, and in that instant, Su Yan stood at the peak, entering into the strongest state of the Emperor's domain. He was extremely powerful. The man and his mount roared, and their auras rose sharply. Daesung's large claws swung forward, grasping a snow-white crystalline bone club that was surrounded by endless ominous light. The instant the big brother's ominous weapon was awakened, the heavens fell and the earth cracked. This enormous energy domain world collapsed and disintegrated along with it. Bang, 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 Su Yan drew his bow at lightning speed, and tens of thousands of arrows shot out. It was as if tens of thousands of stars in the universe were charging up, aiming for the giant's head. At the same time, Long Daesung's large bone club instantly enlarged and smashed toward the giant's chest, wanting to destroy his body. Impudent! You dare to make an enemy of the ancestor? You are destined to die. The giant was enraged, and he was as cold as a supreme emperor. The broken frontal bone between his eyebrows suddenly spewed out a terrifying order that covered his unbelievably huge body. Long Daesung's large bone club was blocked, and even the tens of thousands of sword beams shot out by Su Yan were obliterated. At the same time, the giant roared, and sound waves rolled out like a tsunami breaking through a dike. It was as if the heavens were angry, and this large world became illusory. Long Daesung's body trembled violently, and his blood boiled. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, and he felt like he was going to die from the roar. This giant was quite frightening when he was alive. Suddenly, he left behind a trace of stubbornness, which also triggered some of the origin power in the giant's body, and deduced endless killing order. Let's see how much power you can use. Su Yan rose from the ground in an instant, and stood in his strongest emperor state. He slapped forward with both palms, and the great mystery of the heavenly palm was awakened. This huge world trembled violently, and a vast and boundless divine power rose. Heavenly palm! Su Yan roared, and his palms crossed the sky. Billions of palm prints intertwined, densely covering the universe, and met the origin power of the giant's roar. This world exploded, and a huge hole appeared in the deep sky. Su Yan charged madly, and Long Daesung stepped on his body, and also charged towards the head. Suddenly, he had fallen for a long time, but his body was still indestructible. Su Yan had already soared into the 9 heavens, but the moment he descended into this world, the huge head in front of him emitted a terrifying heavenly might. Incredible! Su Yan felt a headache. When this giant was alive, could it really be in existence that surpassed the strongest emperor? Although he was dead, his head surged with a heavenly might that intimidated the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It might be even more terrifying than Tao Divine Immortals, but it was definitely not as strong as Dark Emperor. This giant's battle prowess might be second only to Dark Emperor. This was too terrifying. This terrifying giant must have been a supreme giant in the distant past. No wonder he called him a primogenitor. He must have been the leader of a powerful race. How on earth did you fall? Su Yan asked and shouted, I'm already a trace of remnant consciousness. You can't hurt me and we can talk. Aunt, you don't have the qualifications to speak with the primogenitor on equal terms. Kneel down and pay your respects. The enormous head shone, releasing a thunderous fury. In his eyes, Su Yan was just an ant, not qualified to speak with him. You're too stubborn. Su Yan was furious, the giant axe on his back about to attack. Hong! In the blink of an eye, just as Long Daesung arrived at the head region, it was scared stiff, its body trembling, almost falling to the ground. This was an exceptionally terrifying life force. Even someone as powerful as Long Daesung couldn't bear it, encountering a terrifying suppression. It was to the extent where this was like a type of suppression that originated from bloodline. This left Su Yan in disbelief. Long Daesong was a heaven-defying spirit. Could it be that the giant's bloodline was even more noble and heaven-defying than Long Daesong's? Roar. Waves of roars sounded. Within the giant's head, chaotic mists surged, and a supreme life force awakened between the brows. There was a vague and illusory small giant sleeping there, releasing incomparably furious flames. It was as if the heavens were angry, making the entire world tremble. This was his primordial spirit, sleeping within the giant's head, seemingly reviving. He hasn't died yet, he's still recuperating. Su Yan sucked in a breath of cold air. His primordial spirit was in unbearable pain. This being was too powerful when he was alive, and his obsession transformed into a primordial spirit reconstruction. Although it wasn't complete, the awakened aura was terrifying beyond compare, suppressing Su Yan to the point where his primordial spirit was about to explode. "You're all going to die!" He roared loudly, extremely ruthless. His vicious aura surged, emitting powerful dissatisfaction and anger. Su Yan didn't wrinkle his brows. Such a terrifying existence shouldn't be so temperamental. Could it be that after being killed, he developed an evil side, like a peerless tyrant who wanted to destroy the world? Hong Long. The giant's primordial spirit awakened, his sleeping body no longer withered, a heaven-defying life force starting to change. It was as if someone was looking over from a distant world, discovering a giant that filled the great cosmos. His feet stepped on buried Emperor-vile earth, his aura swallowing the great world, terrifying beyond compare. Open Heaven Sutra. Su Yan's mind trembled. The scripture this giant cultivated should be the Open Heaven Sutra. It was to the extent where he caught the aura of the Open Heaven Soul Sutra in the giant's primordial spirit. What kind of background did this person have? Could it be an expert from Dark World? Su Yan's eyes released ice-cold light. He had to kill him, or else once the giant had a chance to rise up, Dark World would welcome an unstoppable existence. Hong. A loud noise sounded. Right when the giant's primordial spirit revived, moving its flesh shell, the great cosmos simply exploded, the boundless sea of stars destroyed. An aura that was enough to wipe out an emperor giant's body and soul was reviving. Long Daesong coughed out blood, the crocodile battle clothes he wore ripped apart. The giant monster's body was too terrifying, burning like the universe's ocean, even more terrifying than the immortal furnace. It was about to burn down the vast buried emperor-vile earth. Su Yan's blood and qi trembled from the pressure. His eyes flashed with shock. In a short period of time, he made the greatest guess that this giant's strongest point was its body. But soon, the giant's body became unstable and trembled, losing control of its body. Su Yan saw through the clues. Although this giant's primordial spirit had been reconstructed, it had fallen before after all. The new primordial spirit and body were not harmonious, so it was difficult for it to completely control the body. Chance! Su Yan roared, instantly rushing into the giant's forehead. His primordial spirit welcomed a great eruption, releasing the Open Heaven Soul Sutra, affecting the giant's body. In an instant, the giant's body trembled violently. The blood and qi in its body erupted, the sound of a tsunami deafening to the ears. Su Yan's primordial spirit roared. He felt that he had suddenly grasped the giant's body. It was simply terrifying to the extreme. Open Heaven Series Sutra. The giant's primordial spirit was stunned. It looked at Su Yan, and its violent primordial spirit recovered quite a bit of clarity. It shouted, "Which disciple of my master are you?" Su Yan's heart was filled with shock as his mind trembled. He felt that he had discovered the most terrifying secret of the three realms. What kind of person was this giant's master? Chapter 2154. Su Yan's heart trembled as he thought of many things. This giant was extremely powerful, and he was even more terrifying than a Tao Saint Celestial. He was extremely powerful, and his body was extremely strong. He called himself Ancestor Heavenly Venerate and listed himself as the Master of the Universe. But this giant said that he had a master? Anyone who heard this would be shocked. However, what really made Su Yen feel incredulous was that this giant said that he cultivated the Open the Heavens series of scriptures. The problem was serious. The Heaven Opening Sutra referred to the 10 Great Heaven Opening Sutra. Who was the master behind it? In other words, could it be that the human emperor, the Dark King, and the existences behind the 3 emperor clans were all great figures who had shocked the ancient and modern times? They all had the same origin? Or could it be that the great ancestor and Tianli ancestor god were just the disciples of their masters? Su Yen was confused. How could this be? This was unbelievable. Who in the world would dare to believe this legend? If they had the same master behind them, why would the 3 realms be in conflict and war? This was incomprehensible. He felt that this was the greatest secret of the 3 realms, and it might be related to the root cause of the chaos in the 3 realms. In fact, Su Yen did not think that this ancestor came from the 3 realms. Which disciple are you? I have never seen you before. Su Yen tried hard to maintain his composure. He wanted to figure out some things and confuse the giant as much as possible. The giant head's world was like a vast universe. The giant's primordial spirit was blurry and illusory. It was even incomplete. He was sometimes awake and sometimes sneered. His spirit was a little crazy. You are lying. The giant primordial spirit shouted angrily. His eyes were red, and they were like 2 sharp blades pressing down. In an instant, the world in his head condensed into 2 huge, sharp blades that were as bright as snow. After all, his cultivation was unfathomable. The sudden disappearance of his primordial spirit caused Su Yan's forehead bone to break. Even his primordial spirit was bleeding inside. Su Yen activated the Heavenly Soul Sutra and shouted, "I am Master's disciple." Bastard, how dare you talk nonsense? The giant primordial spirit was furious. Su Yan's words seemed to have touched his bottom line. He shouted, "Master has been dead for countless years. How dare you say that you are Master's disciple? Kill!" Boom! The great Tao was broken. The blood-red blade was boundless as it slashed toward Su Yan's primordial spirit. Su Yan's face was a little dark. He had originally wanted to get some information from the giant, who knew that the master behind the giant had already died. However, Su Yen felt that he had suddenly gained the giant's trust. However, with the giant's current state and crazed appearance, he might not be able to recall many memories. The sharp blade slashed over, splitting apart the long river of time. It arrived in an instant and was already closing in on Su Yan's spiritual sea. It was enough to destroy Su Yan's body and soul. "If you want to die, I'll help you." Su Yan's long black hair was disheveled. In an instant, Su Yen pulled out the giant axe on his back. World extermination erupted. It was a supreme true treasure that hadn't been revived for 200 years. Now that it was awakened, the giant axe broke the blood-red blade in an instant. It cut open the sky and slashed toward the giant's illusory primordial spirit. "No!" the giant shouted in fear. The aura of the world extermination battle-axe made him tremble. His primordial spirit was illusory and incomplete, so the power he used couldn't block the world extermination battle-axe. He suffered a fatal blow. Boom! The head's world let out an earth-shattering roar. The giant's illusory primordial spirit was hit and exploded. Extremely destructive waves swept through the head's internal world. Long Daesung was stunned. This unfathomable primordial spirit was directly blasted into ashes by Su Yan's battle-axe. It was impossible to survive with both body and soul destroyed. It had to be said that the battle-axe Su Yan grasped was extremely powerful. It contained the source of destruction and could easily kill a strong cultivator. A mere illusory primordial spirit was nothing to worry about. Thinking back, the world extermination battle-axe was wielded by Tao's celestial emperor's incarnation. It cut open the order of the great Tao of the dark world. It was obvious how fierce this battle-axe was. Roar! Long Daesung suddenly roared. The blood in his body surged, but no matter how fierce his roar was, he couldn't help Su Yan in a short time. Because the exploded illusory primordial spirit suddenly merged into one, forming a special chaos cocoon. It also seemed like it was sleeping in the sea of time. In the long river of time, the brief splendor seemed to have passed through millions of years. Boom! The chaos cocoon broke out, and an illusory primordial spirit walked out. It was the giant's primordial spirit. It had completed a rebirth and returned to rule the world. In an instant, the giant's primordial spirit roared and slammed down. The influence of the previous life stimulated the giant's body to glow and flow with vigorous blood. Roar! It was an extremely terrifying scene. The unparalleled war god awakened his dormant vitality. His huge body, intimidating majesty, flowed with killing intent. It was like the immortal sun that illuminated the burial emperor. Vile earth was burning. The blood in the giant's body was too vigorous and ridiculous. It was incomparably terrifying. It seemed like just a mouthful of blood from his chest could kill an emperor-level expert. What a terrifying corporeal body! Su Yan was shocked. His flesh body was about to dry up, and his primordial spirit felt like it was about to self-destruct. One had to know that Su Yan was now an absolute emperor-level expert. Reversing his battle prowess, he could stand among the strongest emperor-level experts for a short time. One had to admit that this giant's corporeal body was too strong. It contained an indescribable source of energy. It was scorching and unbearable. Su Yan felt like his emperor body was about to explode. Boom! Su Yan stepped on the desolate land and used all his strength to resist. At the same time, his primordial spirit released the heaven-opening soul scripture to affect the giant's great treasure. As expected, the giant's primordial spirit and corporeal body were not harmonious. Once Su Yan's primordial spirit interfered, the giant's corporeal body started to tremble and become unstable. It could not release any killing intent to target Su Yan. Ha ha ha, if you can control your corporeal body, I, Su Yan, will escape immediately. But your illusory primordial spirit is not a threat to me. Su Yan laughed angrily. In an instant, he swung the destroyer world and slashed at the giant's primordial spirit that was closing in on him. Suddenly, before the killing intent could reach Su Yan, the terrifying primordial spirit light shocked Su Yan. If this giant was in his perfect state, he would not dare to provoke him. Perhaps he could bring disaster to the celestial court. This proved that there was always someone better than you. Die! Su Yan roared. The destroyer world tore his primordial spirit apart again, causing it to shatter. Su Yan's blood and chi surged. He forcefully suppressed the giant's corporeal body with his primordial spirit. At the same time, a trace of surprise flashed in his heart. What kind of celestial technique did this giant cultivate? Moreover, with the sharpness of the destroyer world, how could it be restored once it was hit? However, the scripture that the giant was using was beyond Su Yan's understanding. Could it be that this giant had an immortal body? In other words, if it was not for this world-shaking celestial technique, the giant would have died long ago. There would not be any hope of reconstructing his primordial spirit. You can actually reconstruct your primordial spirit. Su Yan's eyes widened. He was truly stunned. Was this his innate ability, or was it a scripture that shocked the ancient and dazzled the present? Su Yan's eyes were solemn. He looked at the shattered primordial spirit light and started to reconstruct it again. Even so, the speed of reconstruction was a little ridiculous. However, his primordial spirit was obviously weaker this time. The giant's primordial spirit desperately controlled his corporeal body. As long as he could control the corporeal body's great treasure, killing Su Yan would be like stepping on an ant. You won't have the chance anymore. Su Yan shook his head. He swung the Destroyer World Battleaxe and attacked again, destroying the giant's primordial spirit. At the same time, he shouted, "Even if you can recover 108,000 times, I can still kill you 108,000 times. Kill." The broken primordial spirit was reconstructed. The giant's primordial spirit was like a heaven-defying demon that walked out from the chaos. It pounced on Su Yan. Just like that, in the world of the giant head, Su Yan killed him a total of 9 times. He realized that every time he killed the giant's primordial spirit, the giant's memories would become lesser and lesser. In the end, it became the source of destruction and chaos. Just as it was reconstructed, it emitted a monstrous killing intent that wanted to slaughter all life in the universe and the 3 realms. "I can't let you live." Su Yan waved his hand and formed a huge energy cauldron. In an instant, the destructive primordial spirit was imprisoned in the cauldron. After killing him 9 times in a row, the giant's primordial spirit was already extremely weak. Just in case, he had to completely destroy the giant's primordial spirit to prevent any possibility of revival. Su Yan's eyes were like lightning. He sat cross-legged, and his primordial spirit scattered down. The primordial spirit fire burned the giant's primordial spirit. 3 days and 3 nights later, the cauldron was as red as blood. It rumbled and almost exploded. In the end, the giant's primordial spirit didn't survive. It turned into ashes, and there was no possibility of recovery. It's hard to imagine what kind of creature this is. How did it cultivate? Does it have an immortal body? Su Yan thought to himself, luckily, I came early. Otherwise, once the giant regained his strength, he wouldn't be able to break through even with the giant axe. His mind was heavy. This kind of ridiculous creature, who exactly killed it? What kind of race did this creature originate from? What kind of existence was their master? There were too many questions in his heart. His body flashed, and he explored the inner world of the giant, hoping to find something. It was really like traveling through a universe. The world of his body was too big. It was shocking, and there was a certain vitality. More than 1 trillion years later, the giant's body would still have vitality. His vitality was incredible. Now that he had lost his primordial spirit, he was just an empty shell. He didn't find anything along the way. Su Yan wasn't willing to give up. He started a big search in this huge world, hoping to find the giant's legacy. In the end, day after day, he still didn't find anything. Su Yan frowned deeply. Finally, he came to the edge of the vast ocean and stared at the vast ocean filled with the power of time. This should be a type of true treasure, a true treasure that belongs to the giant. Su Yan's eyes were blazing. He tried to use his physical strength to penetrate the ocean of time. However, Su Yan was allowed to try. The grade of this ocean of time was very high and ridiculous. Besides, Su Yan found the imprint of the giant in the ocean of time. If he touched it rashly, he might get into trouble. This should be a semi-finished supreme true treasure. Su Yan thought to himself. This treasure couldn't be at the level of World Destroyer or Myriad World Cauldron, but it was definitely more terrifying than the weapons of Sky Force Ancestor God. It involved time and the order of Universe Ocean. How could Su Yan give up such an important true treasure? Refining this true treasure is as difficult as ascending to heaven. Immediately, Su Yan had an idea. He patted his head and said, "Stupid, too stupid. I forgot something important." Returning to the world of the giant, Su Yan was excited. The giant's body was a priceless treasure. If he could refine it and make it his clone, it would be a heaven-defying fortune. The giant cultivated the Open Heaven Sutra and Open Soul Sutra. Su Yan had the Open Soul Sutra. If there was really hope, there would be a super great being by his side. Chapter 2155. When it heard that Su Yan was going to refine the giant into his avatar, it began to tremble. "Awoo!" The long Daesong cried out in excitement. It shook its head and wagged its tail. It was also very excited. If it could control this giant monster, it would be able to walk unhindered in the buried Emperor Calamity Earth. Su Yan looked up to the sky and laughed. The heaven-opening scripture that he created focused on the Yuan spirit and the mortal body. In other words, Su Yan could give up his mortal body and directly use the giant's body as the main body. Of course, the giant's cultivation system had already been established. Su Yan had his own invincible Tao and firmly believed that his mortal body would not be inferior to the giant's one day. It might even surpass it. Let's begin, let's hope it goes smoothly. Su Yan's Yuan spirit shone brightly. Large amounts of source soul qi leaked out and rolled in the void. Immortal soul technique, the greatest divine art of the Xian people. It was a supreme saint technique that specialized in cultivating avatars. Su Yan had already learned this secret technique and could cultivate an avatar of his Yuan spirit. Of course, the process would cause great damage to his own Yuan spirit. The long Daesong guarded the surroundings. After 9 days and 9 nights, Su Yan's Yuan spirit main body had deteriorated greatly. Its soul qi was dim and weak. However, the Yuan spirit that sat across from Su Yan was filled with vitality. It turned into a second Su Yan's Yuan spirit. They faced each other from a distance, but their minds were connected. Su Yan ate a Yuan spirit mystic herb to nourish his injured Yuan spirit main body. It took 2 months for him to recover to his peak. It can be opened. Su Yan's Yuan spirit avatar suddenly split apart. He had crippled his avatar's heaven-opening scripture, causing his Yuan spirit to appear incomparably weak. It only had a body of soul energy, but it lacked the scripture's order laws to activate it. The withered second primordial spirit began to shine. A resplendent rain of primordial spirit light filled the air. The heavenly opening soul scripture revolved the order laws within his soul body. This scripture naturally shocked the ancients and dazzled the contemporaries. It was known as an unrivaled inheritance for cultivating the primordial spirit to great heights. His second primordial spirit rapidly grew stronger. After 3 months, Su Yan's primordial spirit had constructed the Dharch Tao laws. His primordial spirit emitted a vast soul aura that faintly resonated with the giant. There's hope. We've completed an important step. The second primordial spirit rushed into the sea of consciousness of the giant clone. The enormous head space was like a small world filled with a deathly aura. Boom! The heaven-opening soul scripture instantly bloomed, sprinkling down a resplendent rain of soul light, causing the giant's head to shine. He vaguely established a connection with the giant, and he felt as if his primordial spirit was about to fuse with the giant's head. Of course, this was very difficult. There was a kind of resistance, and Su Yan had to slowly adapt to it. He had to brand his own primordial spirit imprint into the giant's body. Only then could it become his exclusive corporeal body. Buzz! Within the giant's head, a boundless soul aura surged. Moreover, it was covered in the mystical heaven-opening soul scripture. Such a vast project was not something that could be completed in a few days. Su Yan had already prepared himself for a protracted battle. In the blink of an eye, several months passed. The giant's head transmitted powerful fluctuations of life. It was as if the inside had become the birthplace of Su Yan's second life. A rain of soul light sprinkled down from the giant's head, spreading throughout the giant's body. Time flew by. The years were merciless. In the blink of an eye, 10 years passed. Long Dashing felt a chill down his spine as he shivered. He was extremely afraid. Its teeth chattered. It was as if it had turned into a little rabbit, crying out in fear. The main reason was that the giant's head emitted waves of ghostly cries. Long Daesong was already accustomed to this, but it still couldn't help but shiver. The cries were too terrifying, causing one's hair to stand on end. It was bone-chilling. It had already been 10 years. In these years, Su Yan had encountered many difficulties. There were even several times when Su Yan had nearly given up. He thought that it wouldn't be too difficult to obtain the giant's avatar, but who would have thought that the giant's body would contain a terrifying life mark? As Su Yan's primordial spirit and the giant's body deeply fused together, Su Yan seemed to have become a giant. His mind was in chaos. He would roar and scream at times. After all, the giant's Tao was unfathomable. Its influence was too great. Even someone as strong as Su Yan's mind and will couldn't withstand it. It wasn't because of the pain, but because he was afraid that his second primordial spirit would become a new giant. On that day, Su Yan would no longer be Su Yan, but another giant's life. The second avatar would no longer belong to him. This confrontation had already continued for several years. Su Yan lived in purgatory. He would often roar and scream. This made Long Daesung very worried. He was worried that Su Yan wouldn't be able to withstand it and all his previous efforts would be wasted. Gradually, Su Yan's primordial spirit fused deeply with the giant's body. Sometimes he felt like he was Su Yan, and sometimes he felt like he had become a giant. The main reason was that Su Yan had obtained some of the giant's memories. Each memory had an indelible great Tao mark. These memories were about to fuse with Su Yan, causing his mind to split. The giant's memories were very dry. He had spent most of his life cultivating. But the more this was the case, the harder it was to erase these life marks. During this long process, Su Yan obtained a portion of the Heaven Opening Sutra from the giant's life marks. His harvest was already astonishing. He had obtained 9 out of the 10 great Heaven Opening Sutras. Now, he was only missing one. Whoa! Another 3 years passed. Su Yan's roars gradually lessened. He had been quiet for half a year. Long Daesung was a little uneasy. Su Yan's condition wasn't too good. His main body had fallen into an endless silence. This silence made Long Daesung panic. This meant that the giant's life marks were already affecting Su Yan's main body. One had to know that the giant Su Yan was facing was more terrifying than a Tao Saint immortal. It was second only to the Dark Emperor. It was an unimaginable giant. To fight against such a primordial existence, this was the greatest difficulty in Su Yan's life. Long Daesung tried to awaken Su Yan's main body. Unfortunately, it couldn't do so. However, Long Daesung could sense that once it approached Su Yan, it was like approaching purgatory. It shuddered. Su Yan's forehead was emitting a terrifying spiritual power. After more than 10 years of fighting, Su Yan's spiritual power was extremely strong and domineering. It could be said that it was the most tenacious weapon in the world. Its ferocious aura was emitted from its forehead, pressing towards the void. It was iron-blooded and domineering. Su Yan's plan to refine the second clone had already passed for a full 20 years. The giant ancient star was devoid of life. Su Yan was quiet for 1 year after another. During these years, Long Daesung found that the giant seemed to have a life of its own. It was vaguely breathing. Although the process was very slow, once one approached the giant, heaven and earth would explode. Even the river of time would collapse. The giant's dormant vitality was revived. It was like a peerless dragon breathing. This giant was billions of feet tall, and the world was trembling. 30 years. 30 years had passed. On this day, the gloomy universe, the boundless burial emperor vile earth, the vast and boundless great world, suddenly began to tremble. Whoa! Long Daesung cried out in excitement. He could clearly sense the aura of life. An extremely vast fluctuation of life origin originated from the giant's flesh shell. Was Su Yan about to succeed? Boom! This world of vile earth seemed to have reached its end. The great world seemed to have shattered into pieces. The heavens rumbled and trembled. Strands of extremely grand aura were awakening, as if they could pierce through the past and future. My mother, what is that? Black King, look, what is that? Unbelievable, is that a miracle of life? The burial emperor vile earth was vast and boundless. A group of experts traversed the world, following a path to explore the world of vile earth. At this moment, this group of experts with terrifying auras couldn't help but tremble. They saw a shocking scene. A majestic giant stood in the vile earth. He was so huge that he could support the heavens. The sun, moon, and stars revolved around his figure. He was tens of thousands of feet tall, reaching the end of the universe. The giant was huge. When he breathed out, the vast vile earth would burn brightly and tremble as if it was about to disintegrate and melt. When he breathed in, the heavens and earth would dim. The vile earth would fall into darkness and lose all signs of life. At this moment, Su Yan's Yuan Shun had gradually broken free from the shackles and the giant's influence on him. In 30 years, he had already grasped the treasures of the giant's body. However, he discovered a ridiculous problem. After 30 years, his Yuan Shun was still too weak and couldn't activate the treasures of the giant's body. It was like a super huge ship that roamed the vile earth. However, its core was too weak. Originally, it could travel 10 times faster, but in the end, Su Yan could only do 10 to 20%. Forget it, now is the time to activate the giant's vitality. His losses are too severe and he needs to recover. Only then can we bring the giant's body back to the celestial court. Su Yan's eyes were cold. Even if he had to spend 100 years or even 1,000 years, he would bring the giant's body back to the celestial court. When his Yuan Shin entered the ranks of the strongest monarchs, he should be able to activate the giant's Yuan Shin completely. Boom! The moment the heaven-opening scripture and heaven-opening soul scripture were activated, the giant gave off an ancient and vast vitality. It could be said to be the strongest furnace in the universe. In the giant's body, vitality gradually awakened and flowed through his limbs and bones. In fact, during this process, Su Yan's Yuan Shin was already exhausted to the extreme. Pierce through! Su Yan roared. He used all of his strength. His primordial spirit blazed and exploded, triggering all of the slumbering vitality bubbles in the giant's body. This was the awakening of an extremely ancient and majestic aura. The majestic body opened up the ancient star sea and gave off a world-destroying power. Am I going to succeed? Su Yan roared and turned his Yuan Shin into the core to drive the giant's corporeal body and awaken the treasures in his body. All of a sudden, the giant's Yuan Shin that was about to be controlled by Su Yan gave off the most terrifying resistance. The giant's vitality imprint exploded and invaded Su Yan's Yuan Shin. He was almost shaken out of the giant's head. Memories, extremely huge memories, with the supreme vitality imprint, pressed down on Su Yan in an instant. Su Yan was like a giant that was reborn. His Yuan Shin was in danger of collapsing. The memories inside were extremely ancient. He realized that the giant was born from heaven and earth, a chaos giant that broke out from the shell of chaos. No wonder his vitality was so terrifying. It turned out that he was born from heaven and earth, a chaos giant that was nurtured by the great creation of the universe. This was a potential that surpassed all of the past and present. His teacher, Su Yan's second Yuan Shin, was shocked. He saw what he wanted to see the most. The chaos giant was born from the shell. A great existence descended and guided the chaos creatures to become his disciples. How long ago was this historical event that happened? Chapter 2156. The chaos giant was born from its shell and could be considered a great miracle of life. It had been nurtured for a long time and possessed boundless divine strength the moment it was born. It was so ferocious that it caused the entire universe to tremble. Even the universe's laws couldn't tolerate such a heaven-defying existence and sent down a calamity to erase it. From this, one could see how heaven-defying the chaos giant was. It wouldn't take many years for it to become a giant at the peak of the universe. However, on the day it was born, a powerhouse descended and sent the calamity flying. He directly accepted the chaos giant as his disciple. This was the chaos giant's most ancient memory. It originated from a long time ago. Su Yen originally thought that he could see the full appearance of his master through this memory and know what kind of person he was. Unfortunately, this figure was too blurry. Even though it was the Chaos Giant's memory, his master's appearance couldn't be seen clearly. It was blurry and mysterious. Su Yan's heart was heavy. The Heaven-Opening Scripture and Heaven-Opening Soul Scripture were the two most powerful heavenly arts of the Dark World. They were also part of the Heaven-Opening Scripture series and involved the great mysteries of the universe's origin. A rather outrageous thought appeared in his heart. Could it be that the Heaven-Opening Scriptures were artificially created? Regardless of whether or not they were created, the mysterious master behind him had already died for a long time. The giant's memory was rather simple and dry. He had established a group of tribes and passed down his orthodoxy. He revered himself as the primogenitor. The primogenitor of the giant had lived for a long time. Finally, he was killed one day. A powerful life force constantly attacked Su Yan's second primordial spirit. His physical body instinctively resisted Su Yan. On the day of his death, the outerverse exploded and death occurred. Even time was approaching its end. It was too blurry and he couldn't see what exactly happened. He couldn't see where the origin of the destruction was. In short, the world was destroyed. Seas of blood flowed, the great Tao collapsed, and order withered away. This formed the buried Emperor Vile Earth. In this world where evil winds howled, the laws of order were no more. Only a destructive aura was released and engulfed all the outerverse civilizations. This scene was too terrifying. All life in the universe was massacred. It could be said that a supreme demon king was unleashing a great massacre. The giant couldn't escape this disaster either. Its frontal bone was pierced through and its primordial spirit was severed. Only a strand of will remained. After struggling for an endless amount of time, its primordial spirit was finally reconstructed. In fact, if Su Yan hadn't suddenly barged in and engaged in battle, the giant might have truly been revived. This was truly a heaven-defying existence, born from the heavens and nurtured by the heavens, born from the primal chaos. His achievements were comparable to the creation of nature. Destroy the entire world. A sorrowful roar resounded. These words came from the giant. The moment his forehead was pierced through, the moment his primordial spirit fell, despair and hatred were released. In the end, he roared out, "Destroy the entire world." For a time, Su Yan's primordial spirit trembled. He felt a majestic pressure that pierced through the past, present, and future, and finally pressed down on this world. It could be said to be the end of the long river of history that came whistling from the end of the world, suppressing Su Yan. Su Yan's primordial spirit almost collapsed. This kind of despair and unwillingness transformed into the most powerful life imprint that rumbled over. Su Yan roared. On the contrary, he saw even more. The giant primogenitor was in despair. Even someone as powerful as him felt that he couldn't live on. He felt that all life in the three realms couldn't live on either. One day in the future, everything would be destroyed. Were they all going to die? Looking across the three realms, countless life forms would die. All orthodoxies and inheritances would return to the origin. How could this be? Su Yan roared. He seemed to have gone mad and lost control of his emotions. He roared continuously. Su Yan was affected by the giant's life imprint. His entire body was filled with despair. He felt that there was no hope for the future and that he would fall sooner or later. He had no way to resist or struggle. In fact, the extraterrestrial civilization had already been destroyed. The three realms were also full of strife and war. The lives of all life were difficult to protect. They could be drowned in the flood of history at any time. Perhaps there would be a day when the crisis would rush into the three realms. Even the giant primogenitor couldn't resist a power that could destroy the entire world. What hope did they have? Suddenly, the three realms were bound together. Was there any hope? You shouldn't despair. Su Yan's second primordial spirit roared. He couldn't accept all of this. He couldn't let others decide his fate. His fate was in his own hands, not the heavens. Suddenly, the future is really about to be destroyed. I also want to see who the enemy is. Su Yan's second primordial spirit was powerful and flourishing. It gradually regained its composure and calmness. With the sudden influence of the giant's life imprint, Su Yan's spirit and will had long transformed. You shouldn't despair. Another roar rang out. It penetrated the giant's life imprint and surged with boundless fighting spirit. It emitted the flames of war that could burn the reincarnation of heaven and earth. All of a sudden, the desperation and hopelessness that had been buried in the deepest part of the heart of the heaven-defying spirit that was born out of chaos gradually disappeared. It regained its youth and vigor, and its yearning for the beautiful future. From this moment on, Su Yan discovered that his second primordial spirit had formed a deep connection with the giant's body. It was as if they were connected by blood. The giant's will to fight awakened. It completely acknowledged Su Yan. The despair buried in the deepest part of its body was completely dispersed. It was replaced by a brand new giant Su Yan. Boom! Immortal radiance erupted and illuminated the world of vile earth. This majestic giant shone with boundless vitality. It was grand and terrifying, able to suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The scene was shocking. The buried Emperor Vile Earth seemed to be a little short. This giant's body was too grand. It stood tall and towered over space and time. The bronze giant was draped in colorful beast skin clothes. It looked disdainfully at the blue dome of heaven. It was world-shattering, especially the clothes that were revived. The battle armor that had been sleeping for millions of years was awakening. It emitted a terrifying radiance. It was as if 10,000 prehistoric beasts had appeared and were roaring at the giant's vitality. 10,000 beast clothes. The Black King trembled. His eyes turned red as he roared, the legendary 10,000 beast clothes. It's a treasure woven from 10,000 different beast skins. Look at this beast skin clothes. It's mainly made from the strongest beast skins. It's sewn from 10,000 different ferocious beasts. It's a battle armor that's hard to find. Big Goldie was shocked. Even at this time, the Black King was still thinking about his beast skin clothes. Originally, they came to find Su Yan. After all, Su Yan had left the Celestial Court for almost 300 years. They had even lost contact in recent years. This made the Black King uneasy. Hence, they decided to go on an expedition to find Su Yan's traces. But who would have thought that they would meet a super big fellow on the way? It was most likely an unfathomable old monster who had terrorized the vile earth world. A cauldron shot out from the Black King's forehead. The 1,000-world cauldron sat on top of his head. It was hazy with the radiance of 10,000 realms. It carried the Celestial Emperor's orthodoxy. With this item in hand, the Black King was very confident. He called out to the experts, "Prepare to fire." This giant's vitality is miraculous, but his body is quite weak. He's absorbing the starlight to replenish himself. Baokai was suspicious. Why did he feel that the giant's vitality was somewhat familiar? In short, Big Black was preparing to attack secretly. He didn't want to kill the giant smoothly. He only wanted to take away the 10,000 beast clothes he was wearing. After all, this 10,000 beast clothes was quite incredible. Once he put it on, even Tao Saint Immortals would find it hard to hurt him. Awaken! Su Yan let out a low roar. Although his second primordial spirit was weak and could not completely control the giant's body, the giant clone no longer resisted him at this moment. His sea of consciousness issued an order, causing the majestic giant's body to erupt. The dormant vitality spread out. Qi and blood spread out like a tsunami from the 9 heavens. It was extremely ferocious. Su Yan clicked his tongue. This giant's vitality was actually very weak. but now that it had awakened, it shook the heavens and the earth. Even if it was extremely weak, this giant that was born from the primal chaos world still flowed with a vast power that made a corner of the vile earth world tremble. "Awoo!" Long Daesung cried out excitedly. He caught a familiar feeling. The vitality emitted by the giant was gradually becoming Su Yan's. This was a success. Qi and blood flowed all over his body, spreading to his limbs and bones. When all of this returned to the heart's source of power, this heart that had stopped beating for a long time beat. The heavens and the earth exploded. It was comparable to the apocalypse. The heavens and the earth trembled. The great Tao wailed. The sound of the heart beating was like billions of thunder, spreading throughout the vast universe. Big Goldie and the others who were approaching the giant couldn't bear it. This giant was a little scary. When its heart beat, it was even more shocking than being struck by lightning. Long Daesung, who was extremely close to the primal chaos giant, coughed out blood. Its body was about to explode. It was frightened and hid far away. "What is this? Scriptures or?" At this moment, Su Yan was amazed. The giant's heart had awakened and was radiating vitality. It was beginning to produce blood. This meant that the giant had recovered its human functions. It could cultivate and breathe like other creatures. This was a well-deserved, heaven-defying opportunity. It fell into Su Yan's hands just like that. Buzz. Its breastbone gradually shone as if a sleeping supreme being was awakening. It was gorgeous and radiant as it emitted a blazing divine light. Soon, the sound of scriptures chanted from its breastbone was as terrifying as the sea. It was like billions of immortal voices cutting through the universe and shaking the past, present, and future. The giant's breastbone was very special. It was shaped like a cosmic membrane that wrapped around its heart. It seemed to have transformed into a supreme heavenly art and emitted an immortal and indestructible aura. Every breastbone emitted a sonorous sound and flashed with numerous mysterious symbols. 30 years had passed, but Su Yan had never discovered any valuable treasures within the giant's body. However, these ribs seemed to have transformed into immortal weapons that were immortal and indestructible. They emanated dazzling symbols of the Grand Tao, and they faintly resonated with the laws of the universe. They seemed to want to press down and obliterate this peerless scripture. "This is an innate scripture." Su Yan was shocked. He stared at it and said, "This is a natural-born primal chaos giant, and its breastbone has given birth to an innate scripture. Could this be the secret to the giant's immortality?" No wonder he couldn't find the giant's treasure. It turned out that its greatest treasure was hidden within its chest. It could give birth to an origin scripture that could destroy the universe's laws. If this was spread out, who would believe it? It was a natural-born primal chaos giant, and also a spirit that defied the heavens. It had to be said that the primal chaos giant was a powerhouse with the most terrifying potential that Su Yan had ever witnessed. It was something that not even the Long Daesung could compare with. Only the heavens knew how many eras it had been born. Su Yan couldn't help but rejoice. If it weren't for him grasping the heavenly soul scripture, he wouldn't have had the qualifications to subdue the giant avatar. Otherwise, Su Yan would have missed out on a great stroke of good fortune. What a joke! Even a world-destroying axe couldn't completely destroy the giant's primordial spirit. But with the help of an innate technique, if this wasn't immortality and indestructibility, then what was it? Attack. I want to suppress the giant's spiritual sea. You guys go and take off his 10,000 beast robe. Be quick. At this time, Blackie's eyes were red as he rushed over. His body had also become extremely large. Roar. The black beast filled the great universe. It opened its mouth and spat out the myriad world cauldron, smashing it towards the giant's head. Chapter 2157. Su Yan was dumbfounded. What was going on? His primordial spirit was already weak. Suddenly, a huge cauldron came crashing down, filling the sky. The power of the cauldron was shocking. It was as if 10,000 worlds were blooming. Wasn't this the Tao Celestial Thearka's treasure? Why was it suddenly attacking him? In short, this cauldron was exceptionally terrifying and ridiculous. In that instant it blossomed. Celestial Emperor's inheritance appeared, boundless worlds operating. It was as if the great environment of the heavenly court rested here, releasing the most powerful aura. Suddenly, the giant's body was majestic. At this moment, within the Thousand Worlds cauldron, he seemed a little short. The Thousand Worlds bloomed. In the core region, the giant was imprisoned. The giant instinctively fought against the Thousand Worlds cauldron's suppression. However, the more he struggled, the more majestic the Thousand Worlds cauldron's aura became. It was as if it had imprisoned the world of doom and wanted to devour all life. Su Yan could even faintly see the Tao Celestial Thearka's blurry figure. He walked out of the Thousand Worlds and then ended there. His figure seemed to have passed through thousands of worlds. It was extremely majestic. "Stop!" Su Yan shouted. He was shocked. He was afraid that Blackie would destroy his doppelganger. He took out the giant axe. Just as the world destroyer appeared in the giant's hand, the Black King let out a cry. Su Yan met with an accident and was killed. The giant axe was taken away. He might have been eaten by this giant. Kill him and avenge Su Yan. Bao Kai and the others were stunned. Was Su Yan really dead? Why did they feel that this giant was similar to Su Yan? Even their auras were too similar. It was as if they were the same person. Su Yan's face darkened. Blackie had said that on purpose. This was because the Thousand Worlds cauldron's suppression had been greatly reduced. In fact, Blackie was also shocked. What had happened to Su Yan? This giant was indomitable and terrifying. Its flesh shell was too abnormal and ridiculous. "Dai Song!" Bao Kai exclaimed. He saw the long Dai Song rushing over. What was going on? "Heavens, Su Yan, what happened to you?" Big Goldie screamed. Su Yan's primordial spirit walked out of the giant's sea of consciousness, carrying a giant axe. The giant's body was too majestic. Its dormant life force was being replaced with life force. Although its overall vitality was declining, it was still in this type of state. It was filled with a matchless heavenly might that could make a monarch expert disintegrate. "We'll talk about it later." Su Yan shouted. "The giant's life force is too great. If it can't be recovered in time, it will cause the human body to age." Su Yan's second nascent divinity entered the giant's spiritual ocean and asked for a batch of nascent divinity tonic for them. There was no other way. Su Yan's primordial spirit was not compatible with the giant. Once his primordial spirit activated the giant's flesh shell, it would cause severe damage to his soul. Boom! The giant's breath blazed once more. It was as if billions of immortal suns were burning, illuminating the starry skies of the universe. The pores all over his body were like wormholes in the universe that were blooming, spitting out energy essence that filled the world into his flesh shell. The world was filled with een and darkness. Countless starry skies were on the verge of drying up. The moonlight and starlight that filled the sky were boundless and mighty. Su Yan was replenishing the giant's human body treasure. "This is Su Yan's clone. It's too ridiculous." Big Goldie and the others were discussing. Even Big Black was smacking its lip. What great fortune! This opportunity was too great for Su Yan. Such a ridiculous clone was occupied by Su Yan. Even after several months of crazy absorption, the giant's human body treasure was still not filled. Moreover, the giant's flesh shell was even more powerful. The more difficult it was for Su Yan's primordial spirit to move the giant's human body treasure. This was a cruel question. Su Yan smiled bitterly. It stopped. With the giant's needs, he won't be able to recover completely in less than 100 years. His deficit is too great. The Black King shouted. He asked what kind of fortune they had obtained. Su Yan told them about his complicated experiences during this period of time, causing Bao Kai and the others to exclaim in shock. The Split the Heavens series of scriptures was actually related to such a shocking matter. If word got out, who would dare to believe it? Although the giant's master had fallen many years ago, just how glorious was his lineage? Unfortunately, this matter had already passed countless years ago. It was difficult to investigate this historical event. This scripture is profound and unfathomable. Don't look at it too much to avoid disaster. Big Black's expression was solemn. They had gathered at the giant's chest. The heaven-defying spirit born from the primal chaos had given birth to the most powerful innate scripture. Originally, the Black King had wanted to inscribe these scriptures, but the universe's origin laws were resisting and even obliterating them. Heaven-defying scripture! Big Black exclaimed. It goes against the universe's origin laws. Heaven-defying creatures are indeed heaven-defying creatures. The innate scripture they gave birth to is actually so terrifying. Su Yan had a premonition that the value of this scripture was not inferior to any of the heaven-splitting scriptures. It might even be qualified to surpass them. Of course, the scripture also had certain flaws. Every time he died, he would lose many memories. Even until the end, the giant's primordial spirit was only left with destruction and killing intent, leaving behind only negative emotions. They were already on their way back. Year after year passed. In 4 or 5 years, Su Yan and the Black King had joined forces to comprehend the scripture. The scripture has not been completely nurtured, the Black King exclaimed. It seems that this heaven-defying spirit born from the primal chaos has not stepped into the final stage. Otherwise, his scripture would have been completely nurtured and there would be some flaws. Immortal, indestructible scripture. Su Yan clenched his fist. After comprehending this scripture for so many years, it was worthy of being called an unparalleled heavenly scripture. It reversed the universe's order. Although it had not been completely nurtured and there were some flaws, the value of this scripture was still shocking. It seems that the great being who killed him back then didn't know about this scripture. Otherwise, he would have dug out his sternum, Su Yan said softly. The Black King nodded. Although the scripture had flaws, if it fell into the hands of a terrifying being, it might be able to reach perfection. In short, the value of this scripture was too high. The Black King was also secretly cultivating it. Dong, dong, dong. The giant walked in the woeful earth world, wearing the 10,000 beast battle armor. His huge head circled the universe's time sea. This was the giant's ultimate treasure, and it was also a semi-finished supreme true treasure. Its value was shocking as it could form a small river of time. The small woeful earth world couldn't stop the giant and was directly crushed by his foot. Su Yan's second primordial spirit had been controlled and operated for a long time. He could already unleash a portion of the giant's strength. When his primordial spirit grew stronger, he should be able to cultivate the giant's primordial spirit to the extreme. Boom! On the 7th year, Xing Tian battle god roared loudly. The blood and qi in his body became a notch more vigorous. His arms seemed to have turned into heavenly pillars, containing a terrifying and boundless aura. His strength was boundless, and he could practically tear apart a great world. Bao Kai and the others reaped great benefit. With the help of the open heaven scripture, they tempered their corporeal bodies and excavated the great treasures of the human body. Their realms advanced by leaps and bounds. On the way back, with the help of the giant's battle strength and the 10,000 worlds cauldron, they dug out many life-forbidden zones. Their harvest was quite bountiful. Big Goldie swallowed countless heaven and earth immortal materials. Its body was tempered like immortal iron and was indestructible. It could be said to be a great killing machine in human form. It was quite extraordinary. In a large-scale woeful earth world, they dug out a sea of life and found a large number of divine precious medicines. This was a land of treasures. Bao Kai clicked his tongue. The woeful earth world had great fortunes everywhere. In fact, the giant's help was too great. Without this combination, How could they be like fish in water in this woeful earth world? Su Yen almost refined himself to death several times. Is the undying and imperishable scripture so difficult to cultivate? Xing Tian frowned. During these years, they stayed in this sea of life and cultivated in seclusion. Su Yan's corporeal body had been torn apart many times, and he almost died. After all, this was the most suitable heavenly art for giant. Su Yan tried many times, and although he failed many times, his battle strength increased a step further. He excavated the great treasures of the human body from a deeper level and was about to reach perfection. Another few years passed. Su Yen sat cross-legged in the sea of life without moving at all. During these years, the vigorous sea of life had declined greatly. The essence had been completely absorbed by them, and what was left was limited. Su Yen seemed to have turned into a divine statue. His appearance was dignified as he sat cross-legged in the depths of the sea. Exuberant life force flowed through his body. After several years of peace, he remained the same from beginning to end. 3 months later, Su Yen opened his eyes. He stood up and his clothes fluttered about. A wisp of extreme power erupted. Big Goldie and the others' hearts trembled. The pressure continued to be powerful and terrifying. It was as if as Su Yen moved his body, the sea of life would explode. The world was full of een and darkness. The aura of Su Yan's body was too powerful. His blood and bones were rumbling, and his internal organs were pulsing. His body flowed with world-shocking power. He was like a heaven-defying god or devil. With a loud roar, heaven and earth would be destroyed. Su Yen deduced a supreme Tao technique. The destroyed heaven and earth began to reform, and divine chains of the great Tao were born. Su Yan's back was facing everyone. The heaven and earth turned into a great Tao diagram, and it revolved around Su Yan's body. Moreover, the aura of the great environment rippled from his body. Su Yan's figure was a bit blurry. His body seemed to have merged with the world. The great environment was sometimes destroyed and sometimes reformed. The supreme profound mysteries of the undying and imperishable were described. It was as if he had returned from reincarnation, as if he had walked out from the passage of time and history. Break! Su Yen let out a loud roar. The great Tao of heaven and earth wailed, and an extremely powerful aura erupted. The shackles of heaven and earth were broken, and the strongest restraints were broken. Suddenly, he rose from the ground. His aura swallowed the starry sky, and his magic power was boundless. His corporeal body walked toward perfection. It was reorganized in destruction, and it walked toward the strongest in decline. His flesh and blood severed the shackles as if he had split open karma. His flesh and blood was endlessly dense and full. In the end, he became an emperor that filled the world. His aura was everywhere. As Su Yen breathed in and out, the sea of life dried up. His heart thumped and loud sounds rang out. It was as if the heavens had struck him with 5 thunders. Baokai flew out, and the blood in his body surged. They were shocked. Had Su Yen become the emperor equal to heaven? His figure merged with the great environment. It was as if he had become a supreme emperor that had dominated the past, present, and future. He looked down on the past and present. The heavenly embryo is walking toward perfection. Dahei shouted. The 9-colored heavenly embryo appeared behind Su Yen. It was complete and flawless. It was as if millions of mountains had crossed the river of time and suddenly came crashing down. Baokai scratched his head. Even now, he still couldn't believe that Su Yen had really jumped out from a crack in a rock. Peak. Chapter 2158. Blood rushed into the heavens, tearing apart the universe. It was as if billions of bolts of lightning were emitted from the world of woe, tearing apart the distant world of woe. It emitted an extremely vast fluctuation that was even more ferocious than the collapse of the heavens and the earth. Break! Su Yen roared, emitting a peerless domineering aura. His foundation erupted as he raised his fist and collapsed the heavens. Su Yan's body merged with the environment of the world. At this moment, Su Yan was like the ancestor of the heavens and the earth. The aura he emitted became increasingly rich and shocking. This world was changing, welcoming destruction. Big Goldie and the others were a little out of control. It was as if they were walking towards the end with the destruction of the world. Big Black pulled them out and looked at Su Yan's breakthrough from afar. Billions of blood essence continued to boil, tearing apart the heavens and earth. The sky was filled with fragments of the great Tao. The extremely terrifying shadow became terrifying once again. The preface of the heaven-opening scripture emitted from its forehead, forming a dancing true dragon, a celestial phoenix spreading its wings, a black tortoise spreading its sea, a vermilion bird burning the heavens, a koan purring splitting the heavens. Su Yan's words were law. The heavens and earth exploded, and in the next moment everything was reborn. This time, the area affected was too vast. It was a scene that was enough to shock the world. It was as if he had casually created a universal world civilization. A ruined world was reborn from the ashes, radiating with a tide of life. But all of this began to reform with Su Yan's spirit and will. Billions of Tao techniques bloomed, creating all life and giving birth to the saints of the heavens. They emitted the light of the origin of all life, causing this reborn world to emit a vast origin fluctuation. The world has changed, forming the appearance of the environment. It combined to form a great world, producing Su Yan's great Tao imprint. Xing Tian shouted. In the era of the Celestial Court, Su Yan often discussed the Tao with them. They knew that Su Yan was walking on a special path, creating a cultivation system that belonged to him. In these years of wandering in the world of woe, the order of the heaven-opening scripture began to be perfected, and he gradually walked on his own path. At this moment, Su Yan's figure was massive. His head was the heavens, and his feet were the primordial wilderness. The stars in the sky seemed abnormally small. His body was like the world, enlightening the environment of the universe. There was no doubt that his path was once again broad. However, just as Su Yan's great Tao reached its limit and the grand universe world reached perfection, it encountered a supreme pressure. It was as if the face of an even greater world was suppressing the world that Su Yan had created. Without knowing the source of this suppression, Zhang Xian was unable to figure it out. Just like the laws and order of the three realms, the deeper Su Yan's path was created, the more terrifying the pressure would be. The world was about to disintegrate and it was about to be destroyed. Pooh! In the end, Su Yan coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. He encountered a restriction. His body collapsed, as if the ancestor of heaven and earth was walking towards death. His expression was cold. His corporeal body was suddenly in great danger, but once the undying and imperishable scripture was activated, even if his body was destroyed, he could still reconstruct it. His cracked corporeal body was quickly mended, and the flames of life within his body burned. Creating a Tao path is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It's not something that can be deduced in 1 or 2 tries. Big Black walked over and said expectantly, "But you can grasp the environment of the celestial world and break through there, fuse with the environment and increase your strength. In the future, you can further perfect the heaven-opening scripture." Su Yan possessed a peerless Tao field. The celestial world was a place that was tailor-made for him. Although he had failed, his strength had risen a level. He was at the great circle of Emperor Absolute Perfection and emitted an extremely terrifying aura. His might shook the world, and he could stand in the strongest Emperor domain for a long time. "It's time to break through," Su Yan murmured. Several hundred years had passed, and his Tao technique had reached perfection. The next trial was the strongest Emperor domain. In order to prevent the celestial world from paying attention, Black King used the Myriad Worlds cauldron to store the giant's clone inside. In recent years, Big Black's aura of capturing the celestial court's environment had become stronger and stronger. This meant that Big Brother was about to succeed. Half a year later, they returned to the celestial court. Big Brother is about to succeed. Su Yen patrolled the great world of the celestial court. The aura of the celestial emperor's great Tao gradually dissipated and was replaced by Big Brother's power. However, Su Yen could feel that because Big Brother was in the process of merging with the celestial court's environment, the place where he was in seclusion would become stronger and more terrifying day and night. It was like a prehistoric giant beast awakening, and the aura it emitted was terrifying beyond compare. Once Big Brother and the celestial court's environment became one, he would be the new master of the celestial court. When that day came, Big Brother's battle strength would be invincible in the celestial court. Suddenly, even Tao Saint Immortals would not be able to suppress Big Brother. He would be able to control the source of power of the entire celestial court's environment at any time. The celestial court held a meeting of the highest level. After it ended, the 6 elders of the celestial court had complicated emotions. This was also expected, but they did not expect it to be so fast. It had only been a few hundred years, and the celestial court was going to attack the celestial world. After all, they originated from the celestial world. Now that they were going to attack the celestial world, once this war started, it would probably be a war with the entire celestial world. Blackie's attitude was very direct. They could not give the dark world any time to breathe. They had to completely conquer the celestial world before the dark world rose again. The celestial court was in full swing. Before the war, Big Brother had to control the celestial court's environment. In terms of time, it would take decades if it was fast, and 100 or 200 years if it was slow. After a few hundred years of development, the celestial court gave birth to a large number of inherited fire seeds, and a series of systems were also rebuilt. A group of clans ushered in a new era one after another, and amazing geniuses continuously emerged. 8 years later, Su Yen brought Bamboo Moon to the human world. Big Goldie was filled with emotions. Su Siu had become an emperor. Su Siu, who specialized in the human emperor's scripture, had condensed the emperor's origin. His figure had become somewhat terrifying, and he was constantly blending with the human world's environment. Will our child become the ruler of the human world in the future? Bamboo Moon murmured, feeling happy and gratified. Her son was now more powerful than her mother. Su Yen nodded. Big Goldie nurtured Su Siu and let him specialize in the human emperor's scripture. His purpose was to let Su Siu inherit the human world's legacy. The human emperor's path existed in the human world. Big Goldie was the bodyguard of Bury the Heavens. Big Goldie would not watch the human world's legacy disappear, and the burying cave could not remain silent just like that. Although the human world's environment was broken, the human emperor's path was extremely powerful and domineering. This was also a supreme creation. Su Siu had the burying heaven body and was a descendant of the heavenly birth. His talent was already extraordinary. With Big Goldie's dedicated nurturing, Su Siu's future achievements were limitless. With the protection of the human emperor's path, Su Siu will definitely become a powerhouse who dominates the world in the future. Big Goldie lost control and roared, tears flowing down his old face. He roared in his heart, "Old master, are you still alive? I'll nurture a disciple and treat him as a little master. I believe he can rebuild the human world in the future." Boom! Su Siu's figure became more sacred and magnificent. His shadow gradually merged with the human emperor's path, as if he had returned to his mother's womb. He bathed in the auspicious aura of the great path, as if he had stepped into the embrace of the human emperor. Su Yen was amazed. The human emperor's path had been passed down for countless years. It was indeed extraordinary. Although it had been broken and damaged, there was still a day when it could be restored. Su Siu, who had the human emperor's sutra, was like the birth of a new human emperor. Although Su Xiu was not strong enough now, he believed that under the protection of the human emperor's path, he would have great achievements in the future. This is the chosen one, right? Su Yen looked at Big Goldie, who was shouting excitedly. Su Yen, the only successor of the burying cave, and Big Goldie, the only survivor of the burying cave era, had given birth to the current Su Xiu. The human emperor's path had been passed down. Su Xiu's figure gradually became majestic, as if he had turned into a supreme emperor. Billions of rays of golden light gushed out as if he was in a deep sleep and blending. No one knew when he would wake up in the future. Su Yen reckoned that it was already good enough for him to wake up in a few thousand years. After all, his son's growth history was too short. A year later, a giant palace in the celestial court was not calm. A blazing blood light rushed out as the furnace inside the giant palace exploded. The aura was oppressive. A sky piercer, a supreme weapon that seemed to be slumbering in hell, had gone through hundreds of years of refinement. It had already refined the dark matter and turned into a blood-colored sky piercer. It emitted a violent and boundless fluctuation. This was a weapon controlled by the heavenly strength ancestor god. It had been passed down for hundreds of millions of years. This weapon had been reforged and was surrounded by a matchless ominous light. Boom! Long Daesong rushed out and grabbed at the sky piercer with its large claws, trying its best to subdue it. Daesong did not have a life weapon. Moreover, his accumulation over the years was shocking. The experts of the Celestial Court were prepared to give this weapon to Long Daesong. With this weapon in hand, Long Daesong did not fear the most powerful emperor. Another artifact rushed out. It had just emerged from the furnace and released a vast soul fluctuation that tore apart the heavens. The black short spear was extremely powerful. Once it erupted and awakened, even the most powerful emperor's primordial spirit would feel piercing pain. It was as if they were going to be nailed to death. This was a priceless weapon. It was powerful and flourishing. Big Black used its primordial spirit to wield it personally. It possessed the supreme method to kill the most powerful emperor. Of course, there were still large batches of weapons rushing out. They had obtained the Darkness Ancestor God's vicious weapon in the Battle of the Three Realms battlefield. After a long period of refinement and refinement, these weapons could already be used. It had to be said that these weapons made the Celestial Court's upper echelon's battle strength soar. The Three Realms flower is about to bloom. Good news came. This was known as the most powerful emperor medicine in the Three Realms, nourished by the laws of the Three Realms. This flower's bloom was incredible. After all, it was known as the most powerful emperor medicine and also related to one's primordial spirit. The Tao Divine Immortal did not choose to absorb the essence of the Three Realms flower. Although it was in bloom, the amount of soul medicine it could release was limited. The Purple Qilin, Xing Tian Battle God, Qiu Junjun, Nine World Emperor, and Su Yen. 5 absolute emperors who stood at the peak of their era. Moreover, they had some hope of reaching the most powerful emperor realm. With the help of the Three Realms flower, their chances of breaking through were very high. Especially the Purple Qilin, who was infinitely close to breaking through. Grasp this opportunity well. The Tao Divine Immortal said softly, bathing in the soul medicine, strengthening the primordial spirit and merging with the environment on a deeper level. The chances of becoming the most powerful emperor are very high. Su Yen was overwhelmed with emotions. If his primordial spirit could improve further, it would be much easier to control the giant clone. 1. The Tao Divine Immortal swung his sleeve and undid the seal. The three-colored flower was in bud. Abnormally dense soul qi leaked out. There was an indescribable pressure. It was like a hibernating universe had bloomed. The supreme great Tao order interweaved and penetrated the flower bud. In an instant, the supreme soul medicine origin space was opened. Boom! With a loud explosion, the Three Realms flower seemed to have become the only thing in the world. It was extremely dazzling and spewed out a vast rain of great Tao light. The three realms flower bloomed one after another. During this process, the three realms flower became extremely majestic. It was as if the three great universes were accompanying the three realms flower. The core area was overflowing with auspicious divine light. Apex. Chapter 2159. The three realms flower flowed with the world's most resplendent multicolored light. It was accompanied by the sound of the great Tao, spreading through the world. This flower was too miraculous. It was as if it was expounding the profound mysteries of the three realms' origin. The immortal sound was ear-splitting as it surged through the world, becoming louder and louder. Hong. The three realms flower bloomed. Blazing radiance rushed into the heavens. It was as if immortal swords were tearing apart the cosmos, scattering down auspicious signs. Divine primordial spirit light scattered down. It was as if the three realms were interwoven into a supreme energy soul medicine. It surged and whistled out. At first, the primordial spirits of the five great experts trembled. They sensed a terrifying primordial spirit pressure. It was as if the past, present, and future were being torn apart to attack their primordial spirits. In the blink of an eye, it was as if millions of years had passed. The five of them became dizzy, as if they were sleeping soundly. They forgot about time and the past as if they were roaming the three realms. Gradually, Su Yen woke up. His eyes shone. He felt his primordial spirit become comfortably warm. It was as if he had fallen into the river of time. He observed the three realms and saw the supreme traces of the three realms' operation. This made his body and mind tremble. It was as if the supreme traces of the three realms were produced by the unification of the three realms had penetrated his soul. He saw more and more. He suddenly felt that his grasp of the profound mysteries of the heavenly palm had reached an astonishing level. What is that? Su Yen was astonished. He gazed at the stamen of the three realms flower. It seemed as if a supreme deity had been born. It was dignified as it sat at the core of the three realms. Its might shook the river of time. It was a vivid and lifelike figure in the shape of a tricolored little person. This made Su Yen feel puzzled. How could the three realms flower produce a little person? What the world knew about the legends of the three realms flower was limited. Even in the distant era, the number of experts who had the qualifications to observe the three realms flowers bloom up close was naturally pitifully few. 1. The little person shone. It was vaguely breathing. Its chest burned as it seized the good fortune of heaven and earth. It encompassed the energy and matter of the three realms and emitted the fluctuations of the origin of all life. Su Yen clicked his tongue. Could this flower have formed together with the origin of the three realms? The fluctuations from the origin of all life were like the creation of the three realms. It was like the creation of a god. This gave Su Yen an extremely deep comprehension. The heaven-opening scripture improved greatly, and he gained a deeper understanding of origin and the Tao of splitting the heavens. Gradually, the special little person produced by the three realms flower surged with divine multicolored light, scattering down soul medicinal essence. Su Yan's primordial spirit felt comfortable and warm, as if it was being refined, but also as if it was undergoing a special reincarnation. In the blink of an eye, it was as if endless years had passed. The scene his primordial spirit released became more and more divine, as if it was gathering multicolored light and ascending, producing millions and millions of divine multicolored lights that illuminated the world. The sparkling and translucent soul medicinal light spots sprinkled on the primordial spirit, causing Su Yan's primordial spirit to burn fiercely. In a short period of time, the soul power emanating from his body rose by a notch. This was simply unbelievable. The flower of the three realms was too absurd. What a terrifying flower of the three realms! The soul medicinal substance produced when it blooms is the strongest in the three realms. Su Yen sighed in amazement. His primordial spirit was powerful and full, surging with yang energy. Moreover, his primordial spirit seemed to have given birth to a body of flesh and blood. The golden soul body emitted sonorous sounds, as if a golden sword core was hacking at it. His primordial spirit actually excreted large amounts of impurities, as if it had truly become a creature of flesh and blood. He felt that his primordial spirit was exceptionally powerful and full. As it exhaled, the heavens shook and the earth trembled. Myriad Tao resonated with it, and the scene became even more magnificent. Break! Suddenly, Su Yan's primordial spirit roared, and the light of his primordial spirit illuminated the world. In a flash, it was as if he had become one with the great world, releasing an extremely powerful aura that tore apart the great universe. Even the outer realm collapsed into a large hole. Big Black was shocked. Su Yan's primordial spirit was the same as his body. It had defied the heavens and awakened, piercing through the most powerful emperor's domain. On this day, Su Yan's primordial spirit was too extraordinary and shocking. It whistled through the divine rain, sprinkling down the heaven-opening scripture's laws of order, causing the heaven and earth to flicker. Moreover, it was as if the primordial spirit's eruption could blast down millions upon millions of stars. Powerful and flourishing, this was the most direct feeling. The strengthening of his primordial spirit stimulated Su Yan's body to blaze with boundless brilliance. He felt that he was even more powerful than before. With a raise of his hand, he could control the environment of heaven and earth. He had transformed into an Emperor Tao powerhouse, and his roar shook the universe. "I'm getting closer and closer to becoming the Emperor equal of heaven," Su Yan muttered. He had the power to control the universe and control the great world. He had quietly become a peerless expert, a powerhouse who could look down on all living beings in the heavens. The purple Qilin and the others woke up one after another. Each of them had astonishing gains. Their sea of consciousness emitted overflowing soul qi, and their bodies had also become much stronger. The Black King took action, and the myriad worlds cauldron pressed down, sealing the four of them within the cauldron. Wait for Big Brother to become the master of the celestial court and integrate with the environment before you break through. The Black King warned them. Once you break through prematurely, your aura will affect the environment of the celestial court. If Big Brother wants to integrate with the environment in a short period of time, it will take a long time. I know. This Three Realms flower is too overpowered. I didn't expect it to strengthen the primordial spirit so much, and even stimulate the body to further unleash its potential. The four experts nodded. Their gains were great, and they could try to break through the strongest Emperor Realm barrier. This is the strongest Emperor herb in the Three Realms. It would be strange if it wasn't terrifying. In your current state, how many miraculous items are there in the world that can be helpful to cultivation? The Three Realms flower is one of them. Tao Divine Immortal chuckled with his hands behind his back. His demeanor was unparalleled, and even the Ninth World Emperor and Qiu Junjun were slightly inferior in front of Tao Divine Immortal's peerless demeanor. Blackie scratched its head and said, "If only it could mature earlier." Mature? Tao Divine Immortal shook his head and said, "There's no hope. Unless the environment of the Three Realms is reactivated, there's no hope of maturing the Three Realms flower. The 9 Revolutions creation pill requires the Three Realms flower as the main ingredient." Blackie's words were shocking. This caused Su Yan to stare. He walked over and asked, "The 9 Revolutions creation pill is said to have the effect of reviving an expert who only has a trace of life imprint left on his bone." Blackie had once dug out a shocking pill recipe from the vile earth. After some research, it was confirmed to be feasible. However, the recipe was too frightening. The main ingredient was the Three Realms flower, and a series of supplementary ingredients were hard to find. They needed Emperor herbs, heaven and earth immortal treasures, and supreme divine substances. In fact, Blackie had also been searching these years, but only half of the ingredients for the 9 Revolutions creation pill had been gathered. This was gathered from the environment of the Celestial Court. Of course, the rest could be found, and there was hope for all of them. However, the 3 realms flower was too difficult. They had grasped it, but they couldn't mature it. This caused the Black King to stare. If the 9 Revolutions creation pill could be refined, it would be incredible. Even if Blackie and the others died in battle in the future, they could still use the 9 Revolutions creation pill to revive. It was a supreme medicine that could stabilize one's fate. Damn, if we can get it, we can refine at least 3 to 5 pills. Blackie cursed. He prepared to study the ancient book and see if he could use other furnaces to refine the 9 Revolutions creation pill. Su Yen was full of anticipation. Was there any hope of refining the legendary 9 Revolutions creation pill? Time passed quickly, and 80 years passed in the blink of an eye. In these 80 years, Su Yen and the Black King worked together to refine a sky full of killing formations. They had almost emptied the Celestial Court's treasury. The next battle would determine the direction of the future of the 3 realms. The Black King had no choice but to go all out and make ample preparations. He had spent a great deal of resources and refined millions of formation discs. If he were to throw them all out, it would be enough to make the Immortal Realm Alliance green with envy. They had been preparing non-stop. The Immortal Realm wouldn't be idle either. They would definitely be on guard against the Celestial Court's attack. You still can't tell? Blackie was worried. On this day, Su Yen entered the inner world of the Myriad Worlds Cauldron. He looked at the golden paper left behind by the Tao Celestial Emperor and wanted to know what the Tao Celestial Emperor had left behind. Unfortunately, he failed. Su Yen felt that the profound meaning of the golden paper was related to the 3 realms. The answer was hidden within the heaven and earth. Although he couldn't see through it, he further realized that the golden paper didn't leave behind words or inheritance. It was actually a guide. An important guide. It must be very important. Su Yen was also anxious. The Tao Celestial Emperor was most likely in great danger, so he sent a message. Boom! On this day, the Celestial Court's environment shook violently. Boundless golden blood leaked out and swept through the myriad worlds. It was as if the master of the Celestial Court had returned. What kind of existence is coming out of seclusion? Isn't it too big of a commotion? The entire world was shocked. Everyone watched as a majestic figure gradually walked out. The light of blood spread across the myriad worlds. The entire environment shook with the aura of the Big Brother's awakening. Is Big Brother going to succeed? Blackie and the others were agitated. The commotion was too great. It was as grand as the beginning of a new era and the birth of a new era. The Big Brother's hair was flying wildly. He was cold and tall. His aura was so terrifying that it could be called a supreme deity. He was majestic and looked down on the world. Boom! A peerless overlord swept through the sky and looked down on the universe. The entire world rumbled under his divine might, following which the majestic aura seemed to suppress the past, present, and future. It made all living beings bow in worship. This was a trembling from the soul. The environment was being rewritten. The entire celestial court was filled with the Big Brother's peerless divine might. Su Yen vaguely noticed that the celestial court's environment was completely replaced by the Big Brother's figure. His life aura was infinitely powerful and terrifying. The new master of the celestial court has been born. All living beings in the world cried out. The higher-ups of the celestial court were especially excited. The Big Brother's status as the master of the celestial court was completely deserved. No one would refute that he was the founder of the celestial court and the guide of the Tao Celestial Emperor. He had made great contributions to the celestial court back then. What's that? In the Immortal Realm Alliance, a series of experts cried out in shock. What was happening in the celestial court? The environment was awakening and alarmed the 3 realms. Everyone was looking at a figure towering at the core of the three realms. It was peerlessly powerful. The various races and sects of the immortal realm were all scared out of their wit. The experts within their races were terrified. Could it be that an unimaginable giant had been born in the celestial court? It could be said that a new celestial emperor had been born? This matter was too big. It engulfed the billions of ancient realms of the immortal realm. It was difficult for the entire world to calm down. The Cien People's Alliance felt that something was wrong. In fact, they had gathered countless troops over the past few hundred years to guard against the Celestial Court's attack on the immortal realm. A group of emperors had gloomy expressions. They all had a bad premonition. This was the sign of a storm, blending with the environment and replacing the master of the Celestial Court. How bold! The Grand Ancestor's expression was uncertain. He never thought that the higher-ups of the Celestial Court would agree to this matter. In fact, he had thought of this path before, but he had no hope of successfully taking it. The three Emperor-level weapons would not agree. Even the environment of the immortal realm would reject the Grand Ancestor. But the Grand Ancestor could not figure out why Su Yen could do it. Why did the environment of the immortal realm not reject Su Yen? What did he control? This day has come. The immortal realm was uneasy. The power of the Celestial Court made them feel suffocated. They even heard the battle cries. The Celestial Court was already preparing to attack. Chapter 2160. The Celestial Court's environment was blazing. A majestic figure rose from the ground and looked down on the vast universe. Unparalleled majesty and an intimidating aura. His eyes flowed with endless light while his mouth and nose exuded auspicious aura. The great fortune of the Celestial Court was gathered here. Big Brother let out a thunderous roar that shook the three realms and swallowed the universe. He created heaven and earth as billions of stars revolved around him. The myriad realms began to resonate with his aura, creating a new era for the Celestial Court. A terrifying aura spread like a tide, covering the sky and earth. Suddenly, the celestial world entered a bloody era. Suddenly, the three Emperor weapons isolated the Celestial Court's environment from the surging energy tide. Still, there were still terrifying fluctuations that swept across the celestial world's space-time. Dao Ling's aura has completely disappeared. Qiu Junjun looked at the sky and stared at Big Brother with her bright eyes. His figure had completely merged with the Celestial Court's environment. It's not disappearing, it's appearing in a different way. Ninth World Emperor rode over on a giant white tiger. This peerless woman noticed the arrival of a new era for the Celestial Court. The moment Dao's Celestial Emperor's aura disappeared, the Celestial Court's environment began to rumble. The power to cover the sky appeared. Dao's Celestial Emperor's Dao imprints appeared to the extreme and turned into a golden armor that covered Big Brother's body. It made him look like a new Celestial Emperor was born, his aura even more powerful. The heavenly Dao changed and was filled with Big Brother's aura. He had completely become the ruler of the Celestial Court's environment. Yes, Big Brother is Dao Ling's guide. Qiu Junjun said softly. Replacing Dao Ling as the new master of the Celestial Court, the Celestial Emperor's Dao won't resist. A new era is coming. At this moment, Big Brother had become the master of the Celestial Court, the ancestor of the Celestial Court. The significance was extraordinary. At the same time, Zi Qilin and the other three experts tore through the shackles of the human body. Their figures merged with the new Celestial Court's environment and began to evolve toward the strongest Emperor's domain. They had been preparing for many years. Now that the path of breakthrough had been opened, the breakthrough was quite ferocious. Every one of them had their body constitution skyrocketed. Their battle prowess had increased exponentially, and their auras had become more and more powerful. Unbelievable! What kind of opportunity did they get? They actually broke through at the same time. The 6 elders of the Celestial Court were aghast. The celestial court was about to give birth to the 4 strongest monarchs. After all, it was the flower of the 3 realms, which was known as the strongest soul medicine in the 3 realms. Furthermore, Qilan and the others had already experienced enough, so it was only logical that they would break through their shackles. Once the 4 strongest monarchs were born, the celestial court's grand providence would become even more prosperous. They were also confused. Why didn't immortal Emperor Zhang break through? With his power and prosperity, it shouldn't be difficult for him to blend into the new environment of the celestial court, right? Unfortunately, they did not see Su Yan's figure. Instead, the fighting spirit of the celestial court became even stronger. The horn for the final attack had been blown. The celestial court had strong soldiers and strong horses. The army charged forward, killing gods and immortals in their way. All troops, enter the strongest battle preparations. Big Black roared. It was already impatient to fight a tough battle with the celestial world. After preparing for so many years, the time had finally come. The Tao Saint Celestial would not take action. She had to oversee the celestial court. Once the celestial world erupted into a life and death battle, it would definitely lead to a series of huge events. The celestial court had to be protected. She and her big brother would not participate. Not only did they have to guard against the dark world, they also had to guard against the mysterious giant from beyond the heavens. The most important thing was the dark world. They would definitely not watch as the celestial world was conquered by the celestial court. The unification of the 3 realms belongs to the celestial court. The soldiers in the sky roared. Their fighting spirit became even stronger. The vast great world of the celestial court howled with killing intent, turning into countless sword embryos that wanted to split the sky and fight. Boundless killing intent, bone-chilling cold. How strong was the celestial court now? For the celestial world, it was an unknown. The surging killing intent was like a tsunami that pressed towards the celestial world. Countless races felt uneasy. The greatest change was coming. It was not the dark world attacking the celestial world, but the celestial court organizing its army to attack the celestial world. In the Xian People's Alliance, the emperors in the sky had cold expressions. Once this battle began, either they would all be wiped out or the celestial court would be wiped out. No matter what, if the celestial world was broken, they would definitely not have a good ending. There was no way out. Hong Long. Suddenly, there was a huge explosion in the celestial world. The 3 emperor weapons burned brightly, faintly reflecting a supreme figure that occupied the peak of the celestial world. The aura it gave off was incomparably majestic, covering the entire space-time of the celestial world. The great era of life and death had arrived. Billions of ancient worlds were burning. Warning the celestial court, if you dare to invade, you will be wiped out. The great ancestor shouted coldly, issuing the cruelest warning. Once they attacked, the celestial court would also cease to exist. The 3 emperor weapons entered their strongest era, absorbing the essence of the celestial world. They rumbled and spun, their aura quickly becoming violent. Terrifying great Tao radiance descended, forming a vast ocean of laws. At the same time, the celestial court and the celestial world produced a terrifying confrontation. The space-time in the boundless outer space began to distort, completely collapsing into a black hole in the universe. The Big Brother's divine gaze was like lightning. Under his majestic figure, a series of the strongest emperors stood tall, blending with the celestial court's environment. It was extremely glorious. Kill! The Big Brother roared, his hair dancing wildly. He was like a supreme demon god descending into the world. The celestial court gave off an endless austere aura. The slumbering myriad world cauldron suddenly came to life, turning into a huge heavenly soldier, revealing a matchless killing intent, instantly pressing towards the celestial world. They directly chose to start a war. The heroes of the celestial world roared angrily, directly starting a war. This was too decisive and crazy. They were going to fight a head-on battle. The myriad world cauldron streaked across the sky, its terrifying aura pervading the air. The celestial emperor's orthodoxy appeared, immediately suppressing the grand world, practically suppressing the celestial world. Everyone in the celestial world trembled. The most powerful battle really started. Kill! The big brother roared. The cauldron shone, charging towards the celestial world. Hong! The three emperor weapons spun to the extreme. Millions and millions of ancient worlds were reflected, scattering down trillions of laws and order, forming a vast ocean of laws, blocking the incoming cauldron. Hong Long! The two supreme weapons began to collide with each other, causing the sky to collapse and be destroyed. The sky was filled with a rain of destructive light, fragments of time, and cracks in the universe, indicating a great disaster. The supreme treasures clashed, scattering down radiance so dazzling that it made the eyes of all creatures in the heavens bleed. They couldn't see anything. Destructive storms were everywhere, engulfing the long river of history, causing a time gap. The myriad world cauldron and the three emperor weapons collided, suppressing each other. The aura was berserk, shattering the stars in the sky. It was even more terrifying than the end of the world. The dome of heaven exploded, crushing the world beyond. You won't be able to break in, the great ancestor roared. The three emperor weapons were in their strongest state, devouring the essence of the celestial world. Countless territories were turned into wastelands, the life in the ancient worlds withered. The foundation needed was too vast and majestic. The two supreme treasures represented the fate of the two races, forming an extremely powerful battle storm. The celestial world was resplendent and blazing. The blood-colored sea of laws surged, affecting all of the celestial world's realm walls. This was the final line of defense, as well as the only line of defense. As long as this path wasn't broken, the celestial court wouldn't be able to break in. Boom! A loud explosion resounded, and a huge axe appeared in the sky. Kill! Su Yen roared. He brandished the battle axe, hacking down crazily. The world-destroying battle axe was ferocious to the extreme. It cut across the celestial world's realm walls, emitting a world-shocking cutting power. He was no longer the Su Yen from hundreds of years ago. After hundreds of years of fighting in the vile earth, his combat strength had skyrocketed. At this moment, he was wielding the Destroyer World Axe. Without a doubt, it was even more peerless than before. Moreover, his figure appeared, draped in the 10,000 Beasts robe. Abruptly, in the situation where two great supreme true treasures were clashing, he could still stand firm. It's immortal Emperor Zhang. The people of the celestial world roared as they stared at the supreme figure. His battle blood burned all over his body, erupting to the extreme. A giant god attacking the celestial world roared, shaking the great world. Behind Su Yen, the strongest giants arrived one after another. Their murderous auras filled the sky. They were all existences that could sweep across the world. Open for me! Su Yen roared. His disheveled black hair danced in the wind. The giant axe shone, and the blood-colored sea of laws in the sky boiled. Heaven and earth were shaking, pressing down on the realm walls of the celestial world, causing the living beings inside to tremble. The celestial court wanted to attack a battle platform. The celestial world experts in this world quickly fled with their clansmen. Boom! The blood-colored sea surged, and the sea of laws burned. It blocked Su Yan's world-destroying battle axe with all its might. At the same time, a large group of experts from the Celestial World Alliance rushed over to the destination. Along the way, a bloody tragedy occurred. They were all slaughtered by the experts of the Celestial World Alliance. A giant roared, "A great battle is coming. Those who dare to defect, those who dare to retreat, all must die." It had already reached this day. With a cruel heart, countless living beings were destroyed, and the first to cause the celestial world to bleed. Open! Su Yan's eyes opened wide in anger. His roar shook the sky. His body emitted vigorous life essence blood, burning violently, stimulating the world-destroying battle axe to a terrifying extent. Vaguely, the law of destruction formed, wanting to destroy the order of the environment. Boom! This axe was too terrifying. It chopped down until the blood-red sea of laws trembled violently. It even continued to collapse, and a large crack appeared. It solidly chopped down on the realm walls of the celestial world. How could this be? The Grand Ancestor's expression changed. Supreme true treasures could continue to increase combat power, and the destructive power contained in them could not be blocked by the laws and order of the celestial world. One must know that these laws and order contained the power of the three Dharch weapons. He tried to split a portion of the power of the three Dharch weapons to stop Su Yan from penetrating through the war tunnel. But it was useless. The myriad world cauldron had already collided with the three Dharch weapons. The two supreme true treasures rumbled and trembled, breaking apart the river of time as they fought each other. This was the artifact giving birth to intelligence and reviving on its own. Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded, spreading through the billions of ancient worlds and suppressing the celestial world. All living beings looked at the source. Immortal Emperor Zhang had returned, emitting a heaven-burning anger. He wielded the world-destroying battle axe and split open the realm walls of the celestial world, opening up a huge war tunnel. His ferocious aura was endless, even more terrifying than the demon sovereign. With a world-shattering aura, he forced his way towards the celestial world. They are here. The celestial world was in chaos. It was too sudden and decisive, directly killing their way over. No one expected Su Yan to grasp the world-destroying battle axe and forcefully open up a path, opening up a battlefield tunnel. Kill! The ancient bugle horn sounded, and the sound of war exploded. The celestial court sent out all their troops. Their shouts shook the world as they pressed down on the celestial world. Kill! We must win this battle. Billions of murderous weapons covered the sky and earth. They took out their murderous weapons, and their blood boiled. Chapter 2161. Wu Wu, the major ancient worlds of the celestial world trembled and became unstable. An overwhelming murderous aura came. The aura of destruction surged and the sky darkened. It was as if an invincible demon god had come out of seclusion and was attacking the celestial world. The earth shook and the world wall of the celestial world collapsed. They're here. The experts of the major races of the celestial world were uneasy. The celestial world had changed and was extremely oppressive. What would happen in the future? It all depended on this battle. Send out the troops, send out all the troops. Defeat the Celestial Court at all costs. The Celestial World Alliance issued an emergency summons. A huge army was already rushing toward the source, trying to stop the Celestial Court from attacking the Celestial World. The final blow of the world-destroying axe was too powerful. A large part of the world wall collapsed and the dome collapsed. Pieces of the world wall's remnant materials fell down one after another like the remnants of a precious treasure. They formed the chaotic order of the universe and drowned the world. There, an unparalleled murderous aura surged. The roars of billions of murderous weapons reverberated in the space-time of the celestial world, causing chaos and panic. Open the passage and attack the celestial world. The Black King roared and threw out a large number of formation plates. They fell on the world wall that was trembling. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the array discs that filled the sky burned at the same time. A dazzling light bloomed and shot out symbols of the great Tao that contained the order of the Tao that opened up the universe. It infinitely expanded and expanded the passage that Su Yan had torn open. Dense array discs were burning, shooting out world-opening order Tao laws. These array discs were all made from rare materials of heaven and earth. This was a vast project. The commotion caused in a short time was quite ridiculous. It gradually opened up a huge war passage. Dong dong dong, the sound of footsteps was also heard. It was like the pulse of the heavens, shaking heaven and earth. The moment it came out, the giants who were attacking from all directions trembled. Their imperial bodies were about to collapse. The commotion was too great. Murderous aura surged and the universe wailed. The celestial court's army pressed forward. Billions of murderous weapons emitted murderous aura. It surged in the space-time of the celestial world. The mountains and the earth were destroyed, and the order of the laws disintegrated. This world was heading toward destruction. It was a symbol of invincibility. It was going to sweep through the celestial world. Kill! The army of the celestial court roared as the surging light of blood and chi rushed out of their flesh shells and blended together. The scene was even more spectacular than the breaking of a dam in the universe. Mountains, rivers, and the earth were shattered and then surged into the four seas. Boom! A boundlessly terrifying aura pressed down on the immortal world, radiating and spreading towards the distant world, causing the four seas to tremble. In a world where the sun and moon were destroyed, it was as if the gods and devils of the heavens had descended upon the immortal world, looking down on the world with overflowing killing intent. Roar! The huge bugle call sounded, triggering the fierce charge of the army of the celestial court. It was like a flood that could destroy the world, forming a magnificent battlefield. A great battle erupted, extremely sudden, and also extremely crazy. A large number of experts from the Immortal World Alliance had already arrived. Countless soldiers and horses were moving towards their destination. The strongest monarchs were coming one after another. They had to seal the gap and block the Celestial Court's main forces to prevent the Celestial Court's army from attacking the Immortal Realm. Otherwise, this battle would be too difficult for the Immortal Realm. Kill! The sounds of battle resounded, shaking the heavens. The world trembled violently, and the environment of the immortal world trembled. The living beings who took the lead in the battle were too terrifying. A series of monarchs fought together, triggering a powerful energy tide that bombarded the universe. The wind howled and the fire burned. A great battle was about to erupt. In the world filled with bloody light, the two armies clashed. The sky was dyed with blood and corpses were everywhere. The atmosphere of the battlefield was violent. The world turned blood-red, and drifting blood rained down, dyeing the great world red. An extremely tragic aura spread, and the various parts of the immortal world were in turmoil. The battle cries were too fierce, and the frenzied charge was too domineering. Because the immortal world had sent out all their troops, they wanted to swallow the entire immortal world in one go. Zichilin and the others rose from the ground, wielding murderous weapons. They were invincible. The four strongest young monarchs. Some experts in the immortal world camp trembled. In just a few years, the Celestial Court had produced four strongest monarchs. One had to know that the 6 elders of the Celestial Court were among them. At this moment, the Celestial Court was in its glory. The vast world trembled continuously, and the battle between the strongest had begun. It was a sign of bloodshed and madness. 20 to 30% of the immortal world's territories were headed for destruction. The two great worlds fought, and all their trump cards were revealed. Kill! The immortal kings roared, and the monarchs fought with their lives. In a short time, the battlefield was too horrible to look at. The flames of war rippled, burning the void, and were about to burn the entire immortal world. The battlefield had become extremely vast. The Immortal World Alliance tried to stop the Celestial Court's army, but they failed. The various generals led their armies and quickly pulled apart the battle lines, dividing the battlefield world. Boom! The bloody battlefield was suddenly engulfed by the boundless order of laws. The origin of the immortal world was awakening, and the blood-red killing intent pressed down on the various armies of the Celestial Court. Ah! Groups of experts of the Celestial Court screamed. In an instant they were oppressed by the shattering of their bodies. Their bodies were torn apart, and blood splattered across the sky. Some old experts struggled and resisted with all their might, but it was useless. Soon, their flesh and blood exploded, turning into bloody light. In a short time, the celestial court suffered a large number of casualties. Many soldiers exploded into bloody light. The commotion was terrifying. "Kill!" the Grand Ancestor shouted coldly. He controlled the origin order of the immortal world, and a bloody disaster rained down, attacking the various armies of the celestial court. He wanted to start a bloody massacre. ****. The Sword Ancestor and a group of experts were furious. This was a group of the strongest monarchs going crazy. The sky exploded and the enemies withered. One after another, the strongest monarchs activated their monarch bodies. In an instant, the environment of heaven and earth was opened. Their realms entered the peak state, and they became monarchs equal to the heavens. The strongest monarch Tao laws whizzed out, resisting the origin order that filled the sky. Change formation and regroup. The soldiers all over the world roared. They formed a huge formation and revolved, reorganizing the scattered troop. Boom! At the same time, a large number of killing formations awakened in each army, forming an all-encompassing offensive and defensive formation. They temporarily suppressed the sweeping power of the environment. The experts of the Immortal World Alliance had ugly expressions. The Grand Ancestor's trump card did not cause a destructive blow to the Celestial Court. This army was well trained. They reacted quickly and continued to fight. The soldiers all over the sky turned into gods and demons. They wielded vicious weapons and slaughtered in all directions. If we can kill the Grand Ancestor and destroy the celestial race, the war will turn around. Blackie's expression was cold. It was just as he had guessed. The celestial race could control the environment of the immortal world. Fortunately, they had divided the space and time of the battlefield in advance, causing the vast origin of the immortal world to be scattered everywhere. The Sword Ancestor and the others could hold on, but this battle was also extremely difficult for the Celestial Court. After all, they were attacking the immortal world, so they had to endure the suppression of the immortal world's origin environment. Their battle strength had been reduced by a lot. The experts of the immortal world rushed over. They had a certain advantage. The two worlds fought. The boundless battlefield rumbled. In the world filled with war cries, the two camps fought crazily. Su Yan. He left. He went on the road alone and swooped down towards the celestial race. He had to kill the Grand Ancestor. If the immortal world's environment was allowed to suppress the Celestial Court, the casualties of the Celestial Court army would be quite heavy. Su Yan carried the giant axe on his back. He took step after step across the vast starry sky. He had not yet forced himself towards the celestial race, but the aura he emitted was already boundless towards the celestial race's world. Su Yan, you dare to come here and throw away your life. The Grand Ancestor occupied the sky above the celestial race. His bronze body was breathtaking. His eyes flowed with bone-chilling killing intent. The Grand Ancestor naturally hated Su Yan to the extreme. If not for him being able to control the immortal world's origin, the three Emperor's weapons would not have been in operation. The immortal world would not have suffered such a heavy blow. Su Yan's eyes shot out cold lightning. His seemingly elegant figure emitted a supreme ferocious aura. The world-destroying axe on his back shone, emitting a sharp light that could cut the great Tao environment. Suppress! The Grand Ancestor shouted. A ball of blood-colored origin light floated in his palm. This was a part of the origin energy of the three Emperor's weapons. It could control the origin of the immortal world. With an order, the space-time where Su Yan was in instantly spread over. The supreme immortal might covered the sky and earth. Su Yan's black hair was scattered. The giant axe on his back displayed supreme cutting power. He did not even pull out the giant axe. Just the killing power of the world-destroying axe directly tore the sky and earth apart. The great Tao turned into fragments and fell under his feet. Su Yan swallowed the universe. Wherever his feet passed, the heavenly wind whistled as he rushed towards the celestial race. "You dare to come here?" the Grand Ancestor replied coldly. "Although you have a supreme true treasure, how much power can you unleash?" He felt disdain. Not to mention Su Yen, even if a group of the strongest emperors suddenly came, they would not be able to shake the celestial race's foundation. Tens of millions of years ago, Tao's celestial emperor destroyed the Xian people and the reincarnation emperor race's ultimate foundation. However, the celestial race's foundation was still there. The moment it vaguely recovered, the vast celestial race great world revealed an unparalleled aura. Boom! The celestial world was shaken. The power released by the celestial race's awakening was too shocking. It tore through the 33 layers of heaven. The supreme fluctuations awakened limitlessly. The extremely vast power seemed to pierce through the past and the future. The entire celestial race world gradually changed. It was as if the celestial emperor of the celestial world, who had been sleeping for many years, had revived. The aura he emitted was terrifying. The emperors trembled. The celestial race had completely changed. Their ultimate foundation welcomed a great explosion. They looked down on the celestial world and were supreme. Relying on this turtle shell, this proves that the 3 emperors' clans are already a thing of the past. Su Yen replied. He had already arrived in front of the celestial race's ancestral land. Facing the huge monster in front of him, Su Yen seemed extremely small, but he was not afraid. "Bastard!" the great ancestor roared angrily. A huge hand suddenly reached out from his ultimate foundation, covering the primordial world and pressing down on Su Yan's shadow. It was as if it was crushing an ant, wanting to crush him directly. The Grand Ancestor did not believe that Su Yen suddenly grasped an extremely powerful foundation. Once their celestial race's ultimate foundation erupted, unless the master of the celestial court returned, no one would be able to stop it. Heavens, what is that? Why is the sky dark? The saints were in disbelief as they looked in the direction of the celestial race. The ultimate foundation erupted, but a giant suddenly rose from the ground. His aura was terrifying and boundless. It surged and splashed outwards, burning a black hole in the outerverse. A giant roar erupted. The imposing primal chaos giant awoke from his slumber. This commotion was too outrageous. It was as if millions upon millions of suns had been destroyed at the same time. It shook the great cosmos, triggering endless chaos and panic. This was because the ancient realm that the giant resided in had been destroyed. It could not support his body. FBZW